In the ancient forests where wolves ruled beneath the moon's watchful eye, a secret had been kept for 7 winters. 3 children with eyes like molten gold and the strength of their bloodline running through their veins lived hidden among the common folk, their true nature concealed by their mother's desperate love. But secrets, like the scent of prey upon the wind, cannot remain buried forever. And when the Alpha King's gaze fell upon them at the great gathering of packs, the earth itself seemed to tremble with the weight of recognition. For he knew, in the depths of his ancient soul, that these children bore his mark, his blood, his very essence. The reckoning had come. Before we begin fully, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support allows stories like these to reach others who hunger for tales of the ancient ways. Chapter 1, The Summoning. The horn sounded across the valleys at dawn, its deep call echoing through the mountains like the voice of the ancestors themselves. Alara stirred from her sleep in the small dwelling she had made her home these past 7 years, her heart immediately quickening with an old, familiar dread. She knew that sound. All wolves knew that sound. It was the summoning horn, blown only when the Alpha King called for a great gathering of all the packs within his vast territory. She rose swiftly, her feet touching the cold earth floor. Through the single window of her home, she could see the sun just beginning to paint the sky in shades of rose and gold. The forest beyond was waking, birds taking flight, deer moving through the undergrowth. But her mind was not on the beauty of the morning. It was on the 3 small bodies still sleeping in the room beyond, curled together like cubs in a den. Her children. Her beloved triplets. Kale, Lyra, and Finn. 7 winters had passed since she had fled from the king's court, her belly round with the lives growing inside her. 7 winters since she had made the choice that would define all her days thereafter. She had given up everything, her position, her status, her very identity within the pack hierarchy, to protect the secret she carried. And now, with a single blast of that ancient horn, all her careful hiding threatened to unravel like wool pulled from a spindle. The gathering was not a request. It was a command that no wolf could refuse, not without bringing shame and suspicion upon themselves. Every member of every pack, from the eldest to the newly weaned pups, was required to attend. To absent oneself was to declare oneself an enemy of the Alpha King, and that was a death sentence as sure as the sunrise. Alara moved to the children's room, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor she had laid with her own hands. She stood in the doorway, watching them sleep. Kale, the eldest by mere moments, lay on his back with one arm flung over his head, his dark hair tousled. Even in sleep, he had the bearing of a leader, something in the set of his jaw, the broadness of his small shoulders. Lyra, the only girl, slept curled into herself, her silver blonde hair spread across the pillow like moonlight. She was the quiet one, the thoughtful one, but Alara had seen the fire in her daughter's eyes when she was crossed. And Finn, the youngest, slept sprawled across both his siblings, never content unless he was touching them. He was the wild one, the one who laughed loudest and ran fastest, who seemed to have no fear of anything the world might throw at him. They were beautiful. They were perfect. And they were unmistakably his. Alara had done everything she could to hide the truth. She had moved to the remotest corner of the territory, to a village so small and insignificant that it barely appeared on any map. She had claimed to be a widow, her mate lost to a hunting accident before the children were born. She had kept the children away from other wolves as much as possible, homeschooling them in the ways of their kind while teaching them to suppress their more obvious gifts. She had taught them to hide their strength, to pretend their senses were no sharper than a common wolf's, to never, ever shift before others. But she could not hide what they were. Not forever. Not from him. Mother? Kale's eyes opened, golden and alert. He always woke first, always aware. I heard the horn. Alara stepped into the room, kneeling beside the sleeping pallet. I know, my heart. I heard it too. Lyra stirred, sitting up. Her eyes, the same gold as her brother's, found her mother's face. The gathering? Yes. Finn rolled over, yawning. Do we have to go? I do not like the big crowds. Too many smells. Despite her fear, Alara smiled. Yes, little one. We must all go. It is the law. Kale sat up fully now, and she saw the concern in his young face. He was only 7 winters old, but sometimes he seemed ancient, as if he carried memories from lifetimes before this one. Will we see him? The Alpha King? Alara's breath caught. They knew so little, these children of hers. She had told them only that their father had been a great wolf, a powerful one, but that he could not be with them. She had never spoken his name. She had never told them the truth of what he was, of what that made them. Perhaps, she said softly. The Alpha King presides over all gatherings. He will be there. What is he like? Lyra asked, her voice soft and curious. How could Alara answer that? How could she put into words the male who had stolen her heart and then broken it? The wolf who was both the most magnificent and the most terrifying creature she had ever known? He is powerful, she said finally. He is the strongest of all our kind, chosen by the moon goddess herself to lead the packs. He is wise and fierce, and all wolves bow before him. But what is he like? Lyra persisted. Is he kind? Does he laugh? Does he love? Oh, how those questions pierced her. Yes, she wanted to say. Yes, he was kind, once, to me. Yes, he laughed, his voice like thunder rolling across the mountains. Yes, he loved, or so I believed, with a passion that burned like wildfire. That is not for me to say, little moon, Alara said instead, using her pet name for her daughter. Now, come. We must prepare. The gathering begins at high sun, and we have a long journey ahead of us. The children rose and began to dress in their best clothes, simple homespun garments that Alara had woven and sewn herself. She had no finery left from her old life, no silks or jewels or marks of status. She was common now, by choice, and she would present herself and her children as such. But even as she packed food for the journey and filled water skins from the well, her mind was racing. 7 years. 7 years she had managed to avoid this moment. There had been gatherings before, of course, but they were called only once every few years, and she had been fortunate. The last one had occurred just before she discovered she was with child. She had attended that one, still ignorant of what grew within her, still nursing her broken heart. He had not even looked at her that day, his attention consumed by matters of territory and law. She had been nothing to him, just another face in the crowd of hundreds. But this time was different. This time she had the children. And children, especially children of powerful bloodlines, were always noticed at gatherings. They were examined, their lineages traced, their potential assessed. It was how the packs maintained their strength, how they knew which young wolves might one day lead, which might be warriors, which might be scholars or healers. 3 children, all born at once, all bearing the unmistakable signs of alpha blood, would not go unnoticed. Alara tried to think, to plan. Could she claim illness? No, the pack healers would be sent to verify, and they would know she lied. Could she hide the children somehow, leave them behind? Impossible. The village elders would report any household that failed to bring all its members. Could she run, flee the territory entirely? Her wolf stirred within her at the thought, snarling. To leave the territory was to become a rogue, packless and lawless. It was to condemn her children to a life of constant danger, hunted by territorial wolves wherever they went. She could not do that to them. No. She would have to attend. She would have to take the children and hope, pray to the moon goddess, that among the hundreds of wolves who would gather, her small family would go unnoticed. They would stay at the edges of the crowd. They would keep their eyes down. They would be so utterly unremarkable that no one, not even him, would look twice at them. It was a thin hope, fragile as ice in spring. But it was all she had. By mid-morning, they were ready. Alara had braided Lyra's hair and tied the boy's unruly locks back with leather cords. They wore their traveling cloaks, simple brown wool that would help them blend into the forest. She carried a pack with their offerings, for all who attended a gathering were expected to bring something, a token of respect for the Alpha King and his court. Alara had brought preserved venison from their last hunt, wrapped in cloth and tied with string. "Stay close to me," she instructed the children as they set out on the forest path. "Do not wander. Do not draw attention to yourselves. If anyone asks, your father died in a hunting accident 7 winters ago. Do you understand?" "Yes, mother," they chorused. The path to the gathering site was well worn, for it had been used for generations. The site itself was a sacred place, a great clearing at the foot of the mountains where the earth was flat and the ancient trees formed a natural amphitheater. It was said that the first Alpha King, the one chosen by the moon goddess at the dawn of wolfkind, had established his court there, and every Alpha King since had honored that tradition. As they walked, other wolves began to join them on the path, emerging from side trails and forest tracks. Families with children, elderly wolves moving slowly but with dignity, young warriors strutting with barely contained energy. Alara recognized some from her village and the surrounding area, but she kept her greetings brief and discouraged conversation. She could feel eyes on her children, curious gazes measuring and assessing. Already it was starting. "Fine-looking pups you have there," an older wolf commented as he fell into step beside her. His name was Aldrich, a respected hunter from a neighboring village. "Strong, I can see. Good bone structure." "Thank you," Alara said simply, not meeting his eyes. "The boy especially," Aldrich continued, nodding toward Kale. "He has the look of an alpha about him. His father must have been quite the wolf." "He was a good male," Alara said, her voice flat. "The forest took him too soon." Aldrich grunted. "Aye, the forest takes many. Still, you have done well raising them alone." "Not an easy task." "The moon provides," Alara murmured, an old saying among their kind. They walked on in silence after that, and eventually Aldrich moved ahead, joining a group of other hunters. But Alara's unease had grown. If Aldrich had noticed, others would too. She had been naive to think otherwise. The children were too striking, too obviously blessed with powerful blood. She would simply have to be more careful once they arrived at the gathering. The sun climbed higher as they walked, and the forest began to thin. Alara could hear it before she saw it, the gathering. The sound of hundreds of voices, of children playing, of greetings being called out. And underneath it all, the subtle susurration of power, the combined presence of so many wolves in one place making the very air seem to hum and vibrate. Then they emerged from the trees, and the gathering site spread before them. It was vast, far larger than Alara remembered. Hundreds upon hundreds of wolves filled the clearing, organized loosely by pack and village. Banners flew from tall poles, marking the territories of the various packs. At the far end of the clearing, on a raised platform of ancient stone, sat the Alpha King's court. Even from this distance, Alara could see him. Alexandros. The Alpha King. The father of her children. He sat upon a throne of carved wood, his posture relaxed but his presence commanding. Even surrounded by his court, his advisors and warriors, his elite guard, he dominated the space. He wore the traditional garb of the Alpha King, black leather and furs, with the silver insignia of his rank gleaming on his chest. His hair, dark as a raven's wing, was pulled back from his face, revealing features that were both beautiful and brutal in their masculine perfection. Alara's heart clenched. 7 years. 7 years since she had been close enough to see him, to hear his voice, to feel the pull of the mate bond that still, even now, even after everything, sang in her blood. She had loved him. Moon help her, she had loved him with every fiber of her being. And he had cast her aside. Mother? Finn's small hand slipped into hers. Are you well? You smell sad. Alara looked down at her youngest son, forcing a smile. I am fine, little one. Come. We must find a place to sit. She led the children along the edge of the clearing, searching for a spot that was neither too prominent nor too isolated. Finally, she found a place beneath an old oak tree, far enough from the center that they might escape notice, but not so far that their absence would be remarked upon. They settled onto the grass, and Alara began to unpack the small meal she had brought. Around them, the gathering continued to grow as more and more wolves arrived. There was a festival atmosphere, with vendors selling food and trinkets, young wolves showing off for each other, children running and playing in packs. Can we go play? Finn asked, eyeing a group of children near their age who were engaged in a game of chase. No, Alara said firmly. Stay here. Stay with me. But mother, Finn protested. We never get to play with other children. Finn, Kale said quietly. Do as mother says. Finn subsided, though his expression was mutinous. Lyra, meanwhile, was staring toward the platform where the Alpha King sat. Her golden eyes were thoughtful, calculating. He is very large, Lyra observed. The Alpha King. He is, Alara agreed carefully. And he smells of power, Kale added. Even from here, I can sense it. Alara's blood ran cold. You can sense him? From this distance? Kale nodded. It is like a pressure in the air. Like before a storm. Lyra turned her gaze to her mother. Can you sense it too, mother? Oh yes. She could sense it. She had always been able to sense him, even when she wished she could not. The mate bond ensured that. But her children should not be able to sense another wolf's power at such a distance, not unless their own power was considerable. Not unless they were of alpha blood themselves. Many wolves can sense the Alpha King's power when gathered like this, Alara said, trying to keep her voice steady. It is nothing unusual. But it was unusual. Most common wolves could not sense an alpha's power unless they were in close proximity. Her children, untrained and unawakened as they were, should not have been able to sense anything at all. They were growing into their heritage. And soon, very soon, it would be impossible to hide what they were. A great gong sounded, its deep tones silencing the crowd. Alara looked up to see a wolf standing beside the Alpha King's throne, a massive male with scars across his face and chest. This was Gareth, the king's first guardian, his most trusted warrior and advisor. Wolves of the realm, Gareth's voice boomed across the clearing. The Alpha King, chosen of the moon goddess, protector of the packs, lord of the wildlands, calls this gathering to order. Let all who have grievances come forward. Let all who seek justice be heard. Let the law of the pack be honored and upheld. The formal words of the gathering had been spoken. Now would come the business of the assembly, the settling of disputes, the announcement of new laws, the recognition of achievements and the punishment of crimes. Alara had attended many gatherings in her youth, before, and she knew the rituals well. She settled in to wait, hoping that the proceedings would be long and boring and that by the end of it, everyone would be too tired to pay attention to one insignificant widow and her children. But the moon goddess, it seemed, had other plans. Chapter 2, The Alpha King's Justice. The proceedings began as they always did, with the giving of tribute. One by one, representatives from each pack came forward to present their offerings to the Alpha King. There were furs and weapons, livestock and grain, crafted items of silver and gold. Each pack sought to show its strength and prosperity, to prove its value to the realm. Elara watched with half attention, her mind elsewhere. She was calculating the hours until they could leave, planning their route home, thinking of anything but the male on the throne and the way her heart still raced at the sight of him. But then something happened that drew her full attention. A commotion arose from the left side of the clearing. Raised voices, angry and afraid. Elara turned to see a group of wolves dragging a struggling male toward the platform. He was young, perhaps 20 winters, and his clothes were torn and dirty. Blood stained his face and hands. "What is happening?" Lyra whispered. "A crime has been committed," Kale answered before Elara could speak. "They are bringing him before the Alpha King for judgment." The young male was forced to his knees before the platform. Gareth stepped forward, his expression hard. "What crime does this wolf stand accused of?" the first guardian demanded. An older wolf stepped forward from the crowd. "He murdered my son," the wolf said, his voice breaking. "My boy, my only child. This male killed him over a female." A collective gasp went through the crowd. Murder within the pack was the gravest of crimes. Wolves fought, certainly. They challenged each other, tested their strength against one another. But to kill another wolf outside of formal combat, outside of war or defense, was to break the most sacred law of their kind. The accused wolf shook his head violently. "It is a lie," he shouted. "I did not murder him. We fought, yes, but it was a fair challenge. He came at me with teeth and claws, and I defended myself." "Liar," the father roared. "My son had no quarrel with you. You attacked him without warning, without honor." "Silence," Alexandros's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Every wolf in the clearing froze. Elara felt the command in his voice, the alpha power that compelled obedience. Even at this distance, even after all this time, his voice affected her, making her wolf want to submit, to bare her throat in acknowledgement of his dominance. The Alpha King rose from his throne and descended the steps of the platform. He moved with a predator's grace, each step deliberate and controlled. When he reached the accused wolf, he stopped, looking down at the cowering male. "Look at me," Alexandros commanded. Slowly, the accused raised his eyes. Elara watched as the Alpha King stared at the male, his gaze penetrating and relentless. This was one of the gifts of an Alpha King, the ability to sense truth and lies, to see into the heart of a wolf and know their nature. After a long moment, Alexandros spoke. "You killed him." It was not a question. It was a statement of fact. The accused wolf began to shake. "He challenged me first," he whimpered. "I swear it." "Perhaps," Alexandros said coldly. "But you did not fight with honor. You tore out his throat while he was down. You killed him after he had already submitted." The crowd erupted in angry mutters. To kill a wolf who had submitted was even worse than simple murder. It was an act of dishonor that stained not just the killer but his entire bloodline. "What say you?" Alexandros asked, turning to the father. "You have lost your son. The law gives you the right of decision. Do you wish this male to die, or do you wish him to be exiled, cast out from the packs forever?" The father stood silent for a moment, his face a mask of grief. Then he spoke, his voice steady. "Let him be exiled. Let him live without pack, without family, without home. Let him know the loneliness my son's death has brought to my heart." Alexandros nodded. "So be it." He turned back to the accused. "You are exiled. From this moment until the end of your days, you are packless. Any wolf who gives you shelter will share your fate. Any who offer you aid will be punished. You have until sunset to leave this territory. If you are found here after the moon rises, you will be hunted and killed. Go. The male stumbled to his feet and ran, pushing through the crowd. Wolves drew back from him as if he carried a plague. Alara watched him disappear into the forest, feeling a mixture of pity and revulsion. Let this be a lesson, Alexandros said, his voice carrying across the clearing. We are wolves, and we are strong. But strength without honor is worthless. We live by the law, or we do not deserve to live at all. He returned to his throne, and the gathering continued. Alara tried to focus on keeping the children calm and quiet, but she could feel Kale's eyes on her. Mother, he said softly. The Alpha King saw the truth in that wolf. How did he do that? It is a gift of the Alpha bloodline, Alara explained. The strongest Alphas can sense lies, can read the intentions of others. Could Father do that? Kale asked. My father, I mean. You said he was a great wolf. Alara's throat tightened. Yes, she said quietly. He could. Because he had been an alpha. Because he had been the Alpha King himself, though her children did not know it. The proceedings continued through the afternoon. There were disputes over territory boundaries, arguments about hunting rights, complaints about pack members who had shirked their duties. Alexandros ruled on each matter with swift decisiveness, his judgments fair but firm. Alara found herself drawn in despite herself, watching him with the eyes of the female who had once loved him. He had not changed much in 7 years. If anything, he had grown more formidable, more sure of himself. His power had increased, or perhaps she was simply more aware of it now, having been away from it for so long. She remembered the first time she had seen him. It had been at a gathering much like this one, 12 years ago. She had been young then, barely 18 winters, a minor wolf from a minor pack. She had not expected to be noticed by anyone of importance. But he had noticed her. She could still remember the shock of it, the moment their eyes had met across the clearing. The mate bond had snapped into place with such force that it had nearly driven her to her knees. She had felt it, and she had known, with absolute certainty, that this male was hers, chosen for her by the moon goddess herself. And he had felt it too. She had seen it in his eyes, the recognition, the hunger, the sudden, fierce possessiveness. He had come to her that night, after the formal proceedings had ended. He had found her at the edge of the forest, staring up at the moon and wondering if she had imagined it all. You felt it, he had said. Not a question. Yes, she had whispered. As did I. He had stepped closer, his eyes burning with golden light. You are mine. 3 words. 3 simple words that had changed her life forever. They had been together for 5 years after that. 5 years of stolen moments and secret meetings, because she was common and he was king, and such a union could never be publicly acknowledged. He had promised her, though, that once he had secured his position, once he had dealt with the various threats to his rule, he would claim her openly. He would make her his queen. She had believed him. Moon help her, she had believed every word. And then, in the 6th year of their secret bonding, everything had fallen apart. A challenger had emerged, a powerful alpha from a distant pack who claimed the throne should be his. A war had loomed, one that could have torn the entire realm apart. To prevent it, to maintain peace, a treaty had been negotiated. A treaty sealed by marriage. Alexandros was to wed the challenger's sister, a high-born alpha female named Serafina. The marriage would unite the packs, end the conflict before it began. And Alara, his true mate, had been cast aside. She had confronted him, of course. She had raged and wept, had demanded he honor their bond. But he had been cold, unmoved. I am king, he had told her, his voice empty of emotion. My duty is to my people, not to my own desires. This marriage must happen. But I am your mate, she had pleaded. The moon goddess chose me for you. The moon goddess does not rule here, he had said. I do. And I have made my choice. She had fled the court that night, her heart shattered. And a month later, she had discovered she was carrying his children. She had thought about returning, about telling him. But what would have been the point? He had made his position clear. His duty came before everything, even the mate bond. And she would not condemn her children to a life as shameful secrets, hidden away because their father had chosen politics over love. So she had disappeared, hidden herself away, and raised her children alone. Mother? Finn tugged at her sleeve, pulling her from her memories. I need to relieve myself. Alara blinked, refocusing on the present. Very well. Kale, take your brother to the edge of the forest. Stay within sight. Kale nodded and led Finn away. Lyra remained beside Alara, still watching the proceedings with those thoughtful golden eyes. Do you think he is happy? Lyra asked suddenly. The Alpha King? Alara looked at her daughter in surprise. What makes you ask that? Lyra shrugged. He looks lonely. Even surrounded by all those wolves, he looks lonely. Out of the mouths of pups, Alara thought. Because her daughter was right. Now that she looked, really looked, she could see it. Despite his power, despite the court that surrounded him, despite the hundreds of wolves who bowed before him, there was something isolated about Alexandros. Something solitary and alone. She wondered if he still thought of her. If he ever regretted his choice. Then she pushed the thought away. It did not matter. That life was over. She had made her own choices, just as he had made his. The sun was beginning to lower toward the horizon when the formal proceedings finally ended. Gareth announced that there would be a feast that evening, with music and dancing, a celebration of the pack's unity and strength. Wolves began to move about more freely, the rigid formality of the assembly giving way to a more relaxed atmosphere. Alara was just considering whether they might slip away early when she felt it. A prickling at the back of her neck. The sense of being watched. She turned slowly, scanning the crowd, and her blood turned to ice. Alexandros was looking directly at her. No. Not at her. At the children. Kale and Finn had returned, and all three of her pups stood together, Kale with his hand on Finn's shoulder, Lyra between them. They were talking quietly among themselves, unaware of the attention they had drawn. But Alexandros saw them. His eyes, those piercing golden eyes that had once looked at her with such love, were fixed on her children with an intensity that made Alara's breath catch. She watched as he went completely still. Watched as his nostrils flared, as if catching a scent on the wind. Watched as his hands gripped the arms of his throne, his knuckles going white. He knew. Somehow, across the distance, through the mingling sense of hundreds of wolves, he knew. Alara's heart pounded. She had to get the children away. Had to leave, now, before he could approach them, before he could confirm what he already suspected. Children, she said, trying to keep her voice calm. We are leaving. But mother, Finn protested. The feast. Now, Alara said firmly. Something in her tone must have communicated the urgency, because all three children immediately obeyed, falling into step beside her as she began to move toward the edge of the clearing. But they had barely gone a dozen paces when a voice rang out, stopping them in their tracks. Wait. It was not Alexandros who spoke. It was Gareth, the first guardian, and he was striding toward them, his expression stern. Alara's mouth went dry. You there, Gareth called. You and your children. The Alpha King wishes to speak with you. Chapter 3, The Reckoning. Every instinct Alara possessed screamed at her to run. To grab her children and flee into the forest, to shift and use her speed to escape before it was too late. But she knew that running would only confirm his suspicions, only make everything worse. So she stopped, turned, and faced Gareth with as much composure as she could muster. "Of course," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "It is an honor to be called before the Alpha King." Gareth studied her with sharp eyes, then glanced down at the children. His gaze lingered on them, and Alara saw something flicker across his face. Surprise, perhaps. Or recognition. "Come," he said simply, turning back toward the platform. Alara took a deep breath and followed, her children close beside her. She could feel their confusion, their growing anxiety. They knew something was wrong, even if they did not understand what. As they walked through the crowd, wolves parted before them, staring openly now. Whispers followed in their wake. Alara kept her eyes forward, her chin up, refusing to show fear even as terror clawed at her insides. The platform loomed before them, and then they were climbing the steps, moving past the warriors of the King's Guard, entering the sacred space where only the highest-ranked wolves were permitted. And then she was standing before him. Alexandros rose from his throne, his full attention fixed on her and the children. Up close, his power was overwhelming, a physical force that pressed against her skin. Her wolf whimpered inside her, torn between the urge to submit and the instinct to protect her young. For a long moment, no one spoke. Alexandros stared at the children, his expression unreadable. Then his eyes lifted to Alara's face. "I know you," he said softly. It was not a question, but Alara answered anyway. "Yes, my king. I served in your court many years ago." "Alara," he said, and hearing her name on his lips again after so long sent a shiver through her. "You disappeared. 7 years ago. No one knew where you had gone." "I sought a quieter life, my king," Alara said carefully. "Away from the politics of court." His eyes narrowed. "And these are your children?" "Yes, my king." He descended the steps slowly, moving toward them. Alara had to fight the urge to push the children behind her, to place herself between them and him. But that would reveal too much. Alexandros stopped directly in front of Kale. The boy, to his credit, did not flinch, did not look away. He met the Alpha King's gaze steadily, though Alara could see the trembling in his small hands. "What is your name, young one?" Alexandros asked. "Kale, my king." "And how many winters have you seen, Kale?" 7, my king." Something dangerous flashed in Alexandros's eyes. He moved to Lyra next. "And you?" "Lyra, my king. I am also 7 winters." "As am I." Finn piped up before anyone could ask. "We are triplets. Born on the same day, under the same moon." The words fell into the silence like stones into still water. Around them, the members of the court had gone utterly quiet. Alara could feel their stares, their sudden, sharp interest. Alexandros turned back to Alara. When he spoke, his voice was low and controlled, but she could hear the rage beneath it, tightly leashed. "Triplets. How unusual. Their father must have been quite powerful." "He was, my king," Alara said, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "He is dead now." "Is he?" Alexandros stepped closer to her, so close she could feel the heat of his body, smell the scent that was uniquely his. "How did he die?" "A hunting accident, my king. 7 years ago. Before the children were born." "Yes, my king." He stared at her, and she knew he was using his gift, trying to sense if she spoke truth or lies. But Alara had practiced this story for 7 years. She had told it to herself so many times that it felt like truth, and her belief in it was strong enough to shield her from his scrutiny. After a moment, he turned away from her, moving back to the children. He crouched down so that he was at their level, studying each face in turn. "You have your mother's beauty," he said to Lyra. Then to Kale, "And you have the bearing of a warrior." Finally to Finn, "And you have a wild spirit. I can see it in your eyes." The children said nothing, clearly unsure how to respond to such attention from the Alpha King himself. Alexandros reached out slowly, as if not wanting to startle them, and placed his hand on Kale's shoulder. The moment his skin made contact with the boy's, something happened. A flash of golden light, brief but unmistakable. A surge of power that made every wolf on the platform take a step back. The mate bond, recognizing blood of blood. Father and son. Alexandros's hand jerked back as if burned. His eyes went wide, and for the first time since Alara had known him, she saw him look truly shaken. "Impossible," he breathed. But it was not impossible. It was undeniable truth, written in the bond between them, in the power that sang in recognition. Gareth stepped forward, his face grave. "My king?" Alexandros did not answer. He was staring at the children with an expression Alara could not read. Shock, yes. Anger, certainly. But also something else. Something that looked almost like wonder. "Take them," he said finally, his voice hoarse. "Take the woman and her children to the guest chambers in the eastern wing. Post guards. They are not to leave until I say otherwise." "My king," Alara protested. "We have done nothing wrong. You have no right to hold us." His eyes snapped to hers, blazing with fury. "I am the Alpha King. I have every right. You will do as I command, or I will have you dragged to those chambers in chains. Choose." Alara felt her wolf bristle at the threat, at the dominance in his voice. But she also felt her children press closer to her, frightened by the sudden tension. She would not risk their safety, not even to resist him. "As you command, my king," she said, lowering her eyes in false submission. Gareth gestured to several warriors, who moved to surround them. Not threatening, not yet, but clearly there to ensure compliance. Alara gathered her children close and allowed herself to be led away from the platform, away from the staring crowd, toward the great lodge that sat at the edge of the clearing. As they walked, Lyra looked up at her mother. "Why is the Alpha King angry with us?" "He is not angry with you, little moon," Alara said softly. "He is angry with me." But why? How could she explain? How could she tell her daughter that the Alpha King was angry because he had just discovered he had 3 children he never knew existed? That the female he had cast aside 7 years ago had kept the greatest secret of his life from him? "It is complicated, my love. I will explain everything soon. I promise." The eastern wing of the lodge was reserved for important guests, and the chambers they were given were far nicer than anything Alara had lived in for years. There were soft furs on the beds, a fireplace already lit against the evening chill, and a window that looked out over the forest. Under other circumstances, it might have been pleasant. But the warriors stationed outside the door made it clear they were prisoners, not guests. The children explored the room while Alara stood at the window, her mind racing. What would Alexandros do now? Would he try to take the children from her? Would he punish her for hiding them? The law was clear that all children of alpha blood were to be registered and trained, prepared for their future roles in the pack hierarchy. By keeping them hidden, by failing to report their existence, she had broken sacred law. But what choice had she been given? He had rejected her, cast her aside to marry another. Was she supposed to have crawled back to him, pregnant and humiliated, and begged him to acknowledge children he had never wanted? "Mother," Kale said quietly, coming to stand beside her. That light. When the Alpha King touched me. What was it? Alara closed her eyes. She had known this moment would come. She had simply hoped for more time, more years before she had to shatter their innocent understanding of the world. Sit down, all of you, she said softly. It is time I told you the truth. The children gathered on one of the beds, looking at her with those golden eyes, so like his. Alara sat across from them and took a deep breath. Your father is not dead, she began. I lied to you. I am sorry, but I had no choice. Then where is he? Finn asked. Why does he not live with us? Because he cannot. Because he chose duty over love, power over family. Because he is the Alpha King. The silence that followed was profound. The children stared at her, their young minds trying to process what she had just told them. The Alpha King, Kale repeated slowly. Alexandros. He is our father. Yes. But, Lyra said, her voice small. But you said our father was a good male. You said he was kind. He was, Alara whispered. Once. To me, he was everything. But then his duty called, and he chose to answer it. He married another female, one of high birth, to secure peace. And I was left alone. Did he know? Kale asked. Did he know about us? No. I never told him. I found out I was carrying you after I had already left the court. And I decided then that if he did not want me, he would not have you either. Tears were streaming down Lyra's face now. That is why you kept us away from other wolves. Why you taught us to hide our strength. Because you were hiding us from him. Yes. Because I knew that if he discovered your existence, he would try to take you from me. And I could not bear that. You are all I have. You are my entire world. Finn climbed into her lap, wrapping his small arms around her. We do not want to leave you, Mother. We do not care if he is the Alpha King. I know, little one. I know. But Alara also knew that what they wanted might not matter. Alexandros had the power of law behind him, and the children were of his bloodline. He could claim them if he chose, and no one would stand against him. The hours passed slowly. A servant brought them food, but none of them had much appetite. They sat together as the sun set and the moon rose, casting silver light through the window. Finally, deep into the night, there was a knock at the door. Alara rose, her heart pounding. The door opened to reveal Gareth. The Alpha King will see you now, he said. Alone. Alara looked back at her children. I will return soon, she promised them, hoping it was true. She followed Gareth through the silent lodge, down corridors lit by torches that cast dancing shadows on the walls. Finally, they reached a chamber at the end of a hall. Gareth knocked once, then opened the door and gestured for her to enter. Alara stepped inside, and the door closed behind her. The chamber was clearly Alexandros' private space. It was dominated by a large desk covered in maps and documents, shelves lined with books and scrolls. A fire burned in the hearth, and before it stood the Alpha King himself, his back to her, staring into the flames. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, without turning, he said, 7 years. 7 years you kept them from me. You made your choice 7 years ago, Alara replied, keeping her voice steady. You chose your duty over our bond. I made mine. He turned then, and the look on his face was terrible. Raw pain and fury mixed together in equal measure. You had no right. No right? Alara felt her own anger rising. You cast me aside like I meant nothing. You broke our mate bond to marry another. What right did you have to expect anything from me? They are my children, he roared, his power filling the room, making the air itself seem to vibrate. They are my children. Alara shouted back, refusing to be cowed. I carried them. I birthed them. I raised them alone while you sat on your throne and played at being king. You have no idea what it cost me. No idea what I sacrificed. Because you never told me. He crossed the room in 3 strides, looming over her. You never gave me the chance to choose. You simply disappeared and made the decision for both of us. What would you have done? Alara demanded. Tell me. If I had come to you, 7 years ago, heavy with child, what would you have done? Would you have called off your wedding? Would you have claimed me and our children before the entire court? He opened his mouth, then closed it. They both knew the answer. You would have hidden us, Alara said, her voice breaking. You would have kept us as shameful secrets. Your true mate and your bastard children, tucked away somewhere out of sight while you lived your perfect life with your perfect queen. I would not do that to them. I would not let them grow up knowing their father was ashamed of them. I would never have been ashamed of them, Alexandros said, his voice rough. But you were ashamed of me. Ashamed of us. Ashamed of the mate bond itself, because it was inconvenient to your plans. He flinched as if she had struck him. That is not true. Is it not? Then why did you never come looking for me? You are the Alpha King. You have resources beyond counting. If you had wanted to find me, you could have. I thought, he said slowly, that you had left because you could not bear to see me with another. I thought you needed time. I thought you would come back. Come back to what? To watch you play happy families with your queen. To serve in your court like nothing had ever happened between us? Alara shook her head. I may have been foolish enough to love you once, Alexandros. But I was not foolish enough for that. He turned away from her, his shoulders tense. Serafina is not my queen. She never was. Alara froze. What? The marriage, he said quietly. It was never consummated. We spoke the vows, signed the treaty, played our parts for the benefit of the Pax. But I could not. Every time I looked at her, all I saw was you. Every time I tried to touch her, my wolf rebelled. We have lived as strangers in the same house for 7 years. Something cracked in Alara's chest. Then you are a fool. He looked at her over his shoulder, surprise on his face. What? You sacrificed everything, our bond, our love, your own happiness, for a marriage that was never real. You broke my heart and your own for nothing. It was not for nothing, he said fiercely. It brought peace. It prevented a war that would have killed thousands. And it killed us instead, Alara whispered. Just more slowly. The silence stretched between them, heavy with 7 years of pain and regret. Finally, Alexandra spoke. I want to know them. My children. I want to be part of their lives. They do not know you. I know. That is my fault. My failure. But I would remedy it if you will allow me to try. Alara laughed bitterly. Allow you? You are the Alpha King. You do not need my permission for anything. You could simply take them from me if you wished. I could, he agreed. But I will not. Not if you fight me. Not if it would hurt them. He turned to face her fully. I have been a coward, Alara. I have hidden behind duty and responsibility for 7 years while the truth is I was simply afraid. Afraid of the mate bond, of how much power it gave you over me. Afraid of choosing my own happiness over the needs of the realm. But I see now what my fear has cost. I have lost 7 years with my children. 7 years of watching them grow, of teaching them, of loving them. That is time I can never get back. No, Alara said softly. You cannot. But perhaps, he continued, perhaps I can still know them going forward. Perhaps it is not too late for me to be their father, even if I failed to be there at the beginning. Alara wanted to refuse him. Wanted to tell him that he had made his choice and now he must live with it. But she thought of her children, of Cale's questions about his father, of Lyra's curiosity, of Finn's longing for a male presence in his life. They will have questions, she said finally. About why you were not there. About why you chose duty over them. I will answer them honestly. They may not forgive you. I know. I have not forgiven myself. Alara studied him, this male who had been everything to her once, who had broken her heart and now stood before her, humbled and hurting. She should hate him. Part of her did. But part of her, the part that still felt the pull of the mate bond despite everything, still saw the male she had loved. One chance, she said. You may have one chance to know them, to prove yourself worthy of being called their father. But if you hurt them, if you fail them, I will take them away where you will never find us again. I do not care if I have to leave the realm itself. Do you understand? Yes, he said immediately. I understand. And another thing, Alara added. Your queen, Seraphina. What of her? A shadow crossed his face. What of her? Will she accept your children? Children born of another female, born of your true mate? She will have no choice, Alexandros said grimly. Besides, she knows the marriage was a political arrangement. She has her own lover, a wolf from her home pack. We have lived separate lives. Even so, Alara said. I will not have my children mistreated or looked down upon. They are royal blood, Alexandros said. They are my heirs. No one will dare mistreat them. See that no one does, Alara said. Then, because she had to ask, what happens now? To me, I mean. The children are yours by blood, but I am merely the female who bore them. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. You are my mate. My true mate, chosen by the moon goddess herself. You are bound to me, as I am bound to you, whether we acknowledge it or not. That bond was broken when you married another. Mate bonds cannot be broken, he said softly. Only ignored. And I have been ignoring mine for far too long. He took a step toward her, and Alara's breath caught. Do not, she warned. Do not what? Do not look at me like that. Do not speak to me of bonds and mates. You gave up that right 7 years ago. Did I? He moved closer still. Or did I simply make the greatest mistake of my life, one I have regretted every day since? Pretty words, Alara said, even as her heart raced. But words are all they are. Then let me show you, he said. Let me prove to you that I am not the same male who let you go. Let me earn my way back into your life, into your heart, if you will allow it. Why? Alara demanded. Why now? Because you discovered you have children? Because your duty is suddenly convenient? No, he said fiercely. Because I have been half alive for 7 years. Because every day without you has been a special kind of torture. Because I have finally accepted that I cannot be the king I need to be unless I am whole, and I cannot be whole without you. The words struck her like physical blows. She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. But she had believed him once before, and it had nearly destroyed her. I need time, she said. To think. To decide what is best for the children. Of course, he said, stepping back. Take all the time you need. But know this, Alara. I will not give up. Not this time. I will fight for you, for them, for us, as I should have done 7 years ago. Alara turned toward the door. We will see. As her hand touched the handle, he spoke again. Their names. Tell me about them. She paused, not turning around. Kale is the eldest. He is thoughtful and strong, a natural leader. He reminds me of you, though I have tried not to see it. Lyra is the quiet one, but she sees everything. She is wise beyond her years. And Finn is wild and joyful, full of life and laughter. They are the best parts of both of us. Thank you, he said softly. For keeping them safe. For raising them well. For being both mother and father to them when I was not there. Alara said nothing. She simply left the room, closing the door softly behind her. As she walked back through the corridors to her children, she wondered what she had just agreed to. Wondered if she had made the right choice or was simply opening herself and her children up to more heartbreak. But when she entered their chamber and found all three of them still awake, waiting for her, she knew she had made the only choice she could. Mother! Finn ran to her, wrapping his arms around her waist. We thought he might not let you come back. I will always come back to you, she promised, hugging him tight. Always. Kale and Lyra joined the embrace, and for a moment, they simply held each other. What did he say? Kale asked finally. The Alpha King. Our father. He wants to know you, Alara said softly. If you are willing. The children exchanged glances. What do you think we should do, Mother? Lyra asked. Alara smoothed her daughter's hair. I think we should give him a chance. Just one. And see if he can prove himself worthy of the title of father. Will we have to leave you? Finn asked anxiously. Will we have to go live with him? No, Alara said firmly. We stay together. That is not negotiable. If he wants to know you, he will have to accept me as well. Good, Finn said, snuggling closer. Because I do not want a father who does not want you too. Out of the mouths of pups, Alara thought again. Her youngest son had captured the heart of the matter perfectly. If Alexandros truly wanted to be part of their lives, he would have to reclaim her as his mate, publicly and completely. Anything less was not acceptable. Tomorrow, she would tell him so. Tomorrow, she would set the terms. But tonight, she simply held her children close and was grateful they were all still together. Chapter 4, The Price of Truth. Morning came with pale sunlight filtering through the window. Alara woke to find all three children had somehow ended up in her bed during the night, sprawled across her in the way of young ones seeking comfort. She smiled despite herself, carefully extracting herself from the tangle of limbs. There was a knock at the door, and when Alara opened it, she found a servant with a tray of food and a message. The Alpha King requests your presence and that of the young ones in his private dining chamber at midday, the servant said, bowing low. Tell him we will come, Alara replied. After the servant left, Alara woke the children and helped them dress. She had only the clothes they had traveled in, simple homespun garments that looked shabby in the grandeur of the lodge. But she refused to feel ashamed. They were clean and whole, and that was enough. Are we going to see him? Kale asked. Our father? Yes. He wishes to dine with us. Will he ask us questions? Lyra wanted to know. Perhaps. Answer them honestly, but remember you owe him nothing until he proves himself worthy of your trust. At midday, guards came to escort them through the lodge. Alara noticed that the other wolves they passed in the corridors stared openly now, whispers following in their wake. The secret was out, clearly. By now, the entire gathering likely knew that the Alpha King had found 3 hidden children, born of his true mate. The dining chamber was smaller than Alara expected, clearly meant for intimate meals rather than state functions. A table was set with simple but elegant fare, bread and cheese, roasted meat and fresh fruit. And standing beside the table, looking uncertain in a way she had never seen him, was Alexandros. "Thank you for coming," he said formally. The children stood in a line, staring at him with those golden eyes. Alara could feel their nervousness, their curiosity, their conflicted emotions. "Sit, please," Alexandros gestured to the chairs. "I thought we might share a meal and talk." They sat, the children close together, Alara at one end of the table and Alexandros at the other. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then Finn, bless his wild heart, grabbed a piece of bread and bit into it. "This is good," he announced. "Much better than Mother's bread." "No offense, Mother." The tension broke. Alara laughed, and even Alexandra smiled. "None taken, little one. I have never claimed to be an expert baker." "What are you expert at?" Finn asked with a child's blunt curiosity. "Finn," Alara chided gently. "Mind your manners." "It is fine," Alexandros said. "It is a fair question." He thought for a moment. "I am expert at strategy, at understanding how to lead wolves, at making difficult decisions. I am skilled with sword and claw. I can track prey across any terrain." "Can you hunt?" Kale asked. "I mean, not as king, but as wolf?" "Yes. I learned to hunt before I learned to walk." "Will you teach us?" The question came from Lyra. "Properly, I mean. Mother has taught us, but she says there are things only a male wolf can teach his sons and daughters." Something raw passed across Alexandros's face. "I would be honored to teach you. If your mother permits it." All eyes turned to Alara. She considered for a moment, then nodded. "We will see. If you can be trusted." "I understand I must earn your trust," Alexandros said carefully. "All of you. I know that being a father is more than simply a matter of blood." "Why did you not want Mother?" Finn asked suddenly. "If she is your mate, why did you let her go?" Alara closed her eyes. She had known these questions would come, but she had hoped for more time. Alexandros set down his cup slowly. "That is a complicated question, young one." "I am not stupid," Finn said. "I know what complicated means. It means you did something bad and do not want to say it." Kale put his hand on his brother's arm. "Finn." "No, he is right," Alexandros said. "I did do something bad. I made a choice that hurt your mother, and in doing so, I hurt you as well, though I did not know of your existence at the time." "Tell us," Kale said quietly. "Tell us what happened. We are old enough to understand." Alexandros looked at Alara, a question in his eyes. She gave a slight nod. They deserved the truth, painful as it was. 7 years ago, Alexandros began, there was a wolf who challenged my right to be Alpha King. He was powerful, and he had many followers. A war was coming, one that would have torn the realm apart and killed countless wolves. To prevent it, a treaty was offered. I was to marry the challenger's sister, uniting our bloodlines and our packs. "But you were already mated to Mother," Lyra said. "Yes. The mate bond is sacred, given by the moon goddess herself. To ignore it, to marry another, is considered a great wrong among our kind. But I convinced myself that my duty to the realm was more important than my personal happiness. I told myself I was being noble, making a sacrifice for the greater good." "But you were just being a coward," Finn said flatly. Alara gasped. "Finn." But Alexandros held up his hand. "No, he is right again. I was being a coward. I was afraid of the mate bond, afraid of how much power it gave your mother over me. I was afraid that if I chose her over my duty, I would be seen as weak, unfit to rule. So I made the choice I thought was right, and I have regretted it every day since. Did you love the other female? Lyra asked. Your queen? No. I respected her, but I did not love her. One cannot love when one's heart belongs to another. Cale leaned forward. If you could choose again, what would you do? Alexandros did not hesitate. I would claim your mother before the entire realm. I would face the war rather than lose her. I would choose love over duty, because I have learned that a king who cannot honor his own heart cannot truly lead his people. The words hung in the air. Alara felt her throat tighten with emotion. Pretty words, she echoed her statement from the night before. But what do they mean now? They mean, Alexandros said, his eyes locked on hers, that I am going to dissolve my marriage to Serafina. The treaty will stand because it has stood for 7 years, and the challenger is now my ally. But the marriage itself was never real, and it is time to end it. Alara's heart stuttered. You cannot simply dissolve a royal marriage. I am the Alpha King. I can do what I wish, within reason. And this is more than within reason. The marriage was political, it served its purpose, and now it is done. And then what? Alara demanded. You think you can simply claim me after 7 years and everything will be fine? No, he said quietly. I think I will have to spend the rest of my life making amends. But I am willing to do that, if you will allow it. Before Alara could respond, Cale spoke. We have a question for you. For both of you. Alara turned to her son. What question? What happens to us? Cale looked between his parents. We are the Alpha King's children. That makes us royalty. But we have been raised as common wolves. Which are we? It was a profound question, one that cut to the heart of their situation. Alexandros and Alara exchanged glances. You are both, Alexandros said finally. You are of royal blood, and that cannot be changed. But you were raised with values that many royal wolves lack. Humility, self-reliance, compassion. Your mother has given you gifts that are worth more than any title. But we will have to learn, Lyra said. How to be royal. How to act in court. How to be proper. Yes, Alara admitted. If you are to be acknowledged as the Alpha King's children, you will need to learn these things. I do not want to be royal, Finn declared. I like our life in the village. And you may keep that life if you wish, Alexandros said. But you should also know your heritage, your options. When you are older, you can choose which path you wish to walk. What if, Cale said slowly, what if we choose to acknowledge you as our father, but we do not want to live in the court? What if we want to stay with mother in our home? Alexandros was quiet for a moment. Then I would visit you there, he said finally. As often as my duties allow. I would be part of your lives in whatever way you are comfortable with. You would do that? Lyra asked. Leave your court and come to our village? For you, I would do anything. The children looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that only siblings who are very close can have. Finally, Cale nodded. We will give you a chance, he said formally. To prove you can be a father. But you must understand, our loyalty is to mother first. If you hurt her again, you lose us too. Pride and pain warred on Alexandros's face. I understand. And I swear to you, on my honor as Alpha King, I will not hurt her again. See that you do not, Cale said, sounding far older than his 7 years. The rest of the meal passed more easily, with the children asking questions about the court, about Alexandros's duties, about what it meant to be royal. He answered each question patiently, and Alara found herself watching him with new eyes. He was good with them. Natural, despite his obvious nervousness. He listened when they spoke, met them as individuals rather than simply as the children. He laughed at Finn's jokes, engaged seriously with Kale's strategic questions, and was gentle with Lyra's more emotional queries. Perhaps, Alara thought, perhaps this could work. Perhaps he had changed, had grown in the 7 years they had been apart. But she was not ready to forgive him yet. Not fully. Trust was not given but earned, and he had a long way to go before she could trust him with her heart again. After the meal, Alexandros asked if he might show the children some of the grounds around the lodge. Alara agreed, and they spent the afternoon walking through the forests, Alexandros pointing out the signs of different animals, teaching them the old ways of trekking and hunting. Alara watched from a distance as her children laughed and ran, as Alexandros chased them in a game of tag, as Lyra asked him to lift her so she could see a bird's nest in a high tree. It was bittersweet, seeing what might have been, what should have been all along. As the sun began to lower, they returned to the lodge. The children were tired but happy, chattering about everything they had learned. Alexandros walked beside Alara, close enough that their hands occasionally brushed. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For today. For giving me this chance." "Do not thank me yet," Alara replied. "You have many more days to get through before I will consider this matter settled." "I know. But I am grateful nonetheless." They reached the chamber where Alara and the children were staying. The children hugged Alexandros goodnight, a gesture that clearly moved him deeply. "Can we see you tomorrow?" Finn asked. "If your mother permits it." "Mother?" All 3 children turned to her with pleading eyes. "Very well," Alara said. "But now, to bed. It has been a long day." The children filed into the chamber, leaving Alara and Alexandros alone in the corridor. "I meant what I said," Alexandros told her. "About dissolving the marriage. I have already sent for Serafina. She will arrive tomorrow, and we will settle the matter." "Will she fight it?" "No. She will be relieved, I think. She has been as trapped as I have been." "And the realm? The treaty? Will stand. The challenger, Matthias, is now my friend. We have built a solid alliance over these 7 years. The marriage was the seal on the treaty, but it is not the treaty itself. With his blessing, which I am certain I will have, the dissolution can proceed." Alara shook her head. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple. I love you. I want you. I will move heaven and earth to have you back." He reached out, gently taking her hand. "Tell me I have not lost you forever. Tell me I still have a chance." Alara looked down at their joined hands. She could feel the mate bond thrumming between them, as strong as it had ever been. It would be so easy to give in, to fall back into his arms, to believe his promises. But she had children to think of now. And she had learned, painfully, that love was not always enough. "You have a chance," she said finally. "But only one. Do not waste it." "I will not," he promised. "I swear it." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles, and the touch sent fire racing through her veins. Then he released her and stepped back. "Good night, Alara." "Good night, Alexandros." She went into the chamber and closed the door, leaning against it and trying to steady her racing heart. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. Because despite everything, despite the pain and the betrayal, she still wanted him. Still loved him, curse her foolish heart. But love had broken her once before. She would not let it break her children too. Chapter 5, The Queen's Arrival. Serafina arrived at midday, riding at the head of a small escort of wolves from her home pack. Alara watched from the window of her chamber as the party entered the clearing, and even from a distance, she could see that the queen was a formidable female. Tall and regal, with silver hair that marked her as a high-born alpha, Serafina moved with confidence and grace. She wore fine clothes of deep blue, and jewels glittered at her throat and wrists. She was everything Alara was not, everything a queen should be. "Is that her?" Lyra asked, coming to stand beside her mother. "The queen?" "Yes, little moon. She is beautiful." "She is," Alara agreed, feeling a pang of something she refused to name as jealousy. "But not as beautiful as you," Kale said loyally, joining them at the window. Alara smiled and ruffled his hair. "You are kind, my heart." Within the hour, a summons came. The Alpha King requested Alara's presence in his council chamber. Alone. Alara's stomach twisted with anxiety. She had no desire to meet Serafina, no wish to face the female who had taken her place, even if that place had been only in name. But she could not refuse. She left the children in the care of a trusted servant and made her way through the lodge. When she reached the council chamber, guards opened the doors for her, and she stepped inside. The room was large, dominated by a long table surrounded by chairs. At one end sat Alexandros, his face grave. At the other end sat Serafina, her expression unreadable. And standing near the window was Gareth, the first guardian, clearly present as a witness. "Alara," Alexandros said, rising. "Thank you for coming." Serafina's eyes swept over Alara, taking in her simple dress, her unadorned hair, her common appearance. Alara lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated. "So," Serafina said, her voice cool and cultured, "you are the true mate." "I am," Alara replied. "And the mother of his children." "Yes." Serafina studied her for a long moment. "I have known for 7 years that my husband's heart was not mine. I have lived with a male who looked through me rather than at me, who never touched me with anything more than duty. I have been a queen in name only, a political token." "I am sorry," Alara said, and found she meant it. "I did not want to hurt you." "Did you not?" Serafina's smile was bitter. "You had his love. You carried his children. You were everything I could never be, and I hated you for it, even though I had never met you." "Serafina," Alexandros said quietly. But the queen held up her hand. "Let me finish." She turned back to Alara. "I hated you. But I also envied you. Because you had what I wanted most. Not him, necessarily. Not Alexandros. But a mate who chose me for myself, not for politics. A bond given by the moon goddess, not negotiated by strategists." "You have a lover," Alara said carefully. "Alexandros told me." "I do. Cassius, a warrior from my home pack. We have loved each other since we were young, but my family would never allow the match. He was not high-born enough, not powerful enough." Serafina's eyes grew distant. "When I was told I must marry the Alpha King, I thought my heart would break. But Cassius swore he would wait for me, and he has. All these years, he has waited. Then why not simply dissolve the marriage?" Alara asked. "Why continue this farce?" "Because treaties are not so easily broken," Serafina replied. "Because my brother, Matthias, the one who challenged for the throne, would have seen it as an insult. Because the peace of the realm depended on this union, false though it was." "But things have changed," Alexandros interjected. "Matthias and I have become true allies. The treaty is secure. And I will not continue to live a lie, not when my true mate has returned, not when I have children who need their father." Serafina looked at him, and for the first time, Alara saw something like sympathy in the queen's eyes. "You truly love her, do not you? Even after all this time." "I do," Alexandros said without hesitation. "Then I will agree to the dissolution. But I want something in return." Name it, Alexandros said. I want to be free to claim Cassius as my mate. I want your blessing and your protection for our union. And I want it known that this dissolution is mutual, that I am not being cast aside but rather choosing to leave. Done, Alexandros said immediately. All of it. Serafina nodded slowly. Then we are in agreement. I will speak with my brother and ensure he understands. The treaty will stand, but the marriage ends. Relief flooded through Alara, though she tried not to show it. This was what Alexandros had promised, but seeing it actually happen was different. There is one more thing, Serafina said, looking at Alara now. The children. They are heirs to the throne, are they not? They are of royal blood, Alexandros confirmed. But their place in this succession is not yet determined. They should be recognized, Serafina said firmly. Formally and publicly. They should be given titles, positions, everything that is their right by birth. To do otherwise is to shame them, and they have done nothing to deserve shame. Alara was surprised by the queen's words, by the fairness in them. Thank you, she said softly. Serafina inclined her head. I am not a cruel female, whatever you may think of me. And children are innocent of their parents' choices. They should not suffer for what we have done. I appreciate your generosity, Alara said. It is not generosity. It is justice. Serafina rose from her chair. I will prepare the formal documents for the dissolution. It will take a few days to complete the rituals, but by the next full moon, you will be free to claim each other as you should have done 7 years ago. And you will be free to claim Cassius, Alexandros said. A real smile crossed Serafina's face, the first genuine expression Alara had seen from her. Yes. Finally. After Serafina left, escorted by Gareth to begin the formal proceedings, Alara found herself alone with Alexandros once more. That went better than I expected, she admitted. She is a good female, Alexandros said. I have wronged her almost as much as I wronged you. I am glad she will finally have her happiness. As are you hoping to have yours? He moved closer to her. I am hoping. But I know I have not yet earned it. No, Alara agreed. You have not. What more must I do? He asked. Tell me, and I will do it. Alara thought about this. Time, she said finally. I need time to trust you again. And the children need time to truly know you. You cannot simply waltz back into our lives and expect everything to be perfect. I know. I am prepared to wait as long as necessary. Are you? Alara challenged. Because waiting requires patience, and I am not certain you have enough of that. I have learned patience, he said quietly. 7 years of living with the consequences of my impatience has taught me that. Alara wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that he had truly changed. But belief and trust were not the same thing. We will see, she said, the words becoming her mantra. Over the next few days, a routine developed. Alexandros would spend his mornings attending to kingdom business, hearing petitions and settling disputes. In the afternoons, he would join Alara and the children, teaching them, playing with them, slowly building relationships with each one. Kale responded to his father's tactical mind, engaging in strategic discussions that were far beyond his years. Lyra opened up about her observations of the natural world, and Alexandros listened with genuine interest. And Finn, Wild Finn, seemed to have decided that having a father was actually rather fun, especially when that father was willing to roughhouse and play chase through the forests. Alara watched it all with mixed emotions. Joy, that her children were finally getting to know their father. Sorrow, for all the years that had been lost. And fear, always fear, that this happiness would be snatched away somehow. On the 5th day after Serafina's arrival, as Alara was walking through the lodge, she encountered an older female wolf she recognized. Nyx, one of the elders of the council, a female known for her wisdom and her sharp tongue. Alara, Nyx said, her voice cool. I heard you had returned. I did not realize I was so well known, Alara replied carefully. Oh, you were known, Nyx said. You were the Alpha King's secret lover, the one he could not let go even after his marriage. There were whispers about you for years. I was not his lover after he married, Alara said firmly. I left the court and never returned. Until now. With 3 children in tow, children who are clearly his. Is there a point to this conversation? Alara asked, her patience wearing thin. Yes, Nyx said bluntly. I want to know your intentions. Are you here to be the Alpha King's mate, or are you here to cause chaos? I am here because the Alpha King discovered the existence of his children and would not let us leave, Alara said. As for my intentions beyond that, they are my own business. They become everyone's business when they affect the stability of the realm, Nyx countered. We have just survived 7 years of a political marriage. The dissolution of that marriage, even by mutual agreement, will cause ripples. If you become queen, if your children are formally recognized as heirs, it will change the entire balance of power. I never asked to be queen, Alara said. Perhaps not. But you are the Alpha King's true mate. If he claims you, which he clearly intends to do, you will become queen whether you wish it or not. The question is, are you prepared for that role? Alara had not let herself think too much about this aspect of the situation. She had been so focused on protecting her children, on navigating her complicated feelings about Alexandros, that she had not fully considered what it would mean to be his official mate. To be queen. To have all eyes upon her. To be responsible not just for her own small family but for the entire realm. I do not know, she admitted. I was not raised for such a role. No, Nyx agreed. But then, neither was he raised to be king, not really. He was a warrior, a soldier, thrust into leadership because of his power and his vision. Yet he has become a good king, a great one even. Perhaps you too can grow into a role you never expected. Why are you telling me this? Alara asked. You could simply oppose my claiming. Make it difficult for Alexandros to recognize me and the children. I could, Nyx said. And there are those on the council who will. But I have watched Alexandros these 7 years, and I have seen a male who was only half present, who ruled with his mind but not his heart. These past few days, since you arrived, he has been different. More alive. More himself. If claiming you makes him a better king, then I will support it, common blood or not. I am honored, Alara said, meaning it. Do not be honored yet. Be prepared. The life of a queen is not an easy one. You will be scrutinized, criticized, judged by every decision you make. Your children will be as well. Are you strong enough for that? Alara thought of the past 7 years. Of raising 3 children alone. Of hunting and providing, of teaching and protecting, of being both mother and father. Of surviving on determination and love alone. I am strong enough, she said quietly. The question is whether I want to be. Nyx smiled, a rare expression on her stern face. That, my dear, is the real question, is it not? Think on it. But do not think too long. The realm waits for no one. The elder left, and Alara stood in the corridor, her mind whirling. She had never wanted power or prestige. She had simply wanted to be with the male she loved and raise her children in peace. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. That evening, after the children were asleep, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Alexandros, looking uncertain. May I come in? He asked. She stepped aside, letting him enter. He moved to the window, staring out at the moon that hung full and bright in the night sky. "The full moon," he said softly. "Tomorrow, the dissolution will be complete. Serafina and I will no longer be bound." "And then?" Elara asked. He turned to face her. "And then I will ask you, formally and before the entire realm, to be my mate. My queen." Elara's breath caught. "Alexandros." "I know," he said quickly. "I know you have not decided. I know you need more time. But the formality must be observed. I must make my intentions clear, publicly and without ambiguity. You do not have to accept immediately. You can take all the time you need to decide. But I want everyone to know that you are mine, that I claim you, that I will wait as long as it takes for you to claim me in return." "What if I never do?" Elara asked quietly. "What if I decide that the cost is too high, that I would rather return to my simple life?" Pain flashed across his face. "Then I will let you go. I will acknowledge the children, give them their birthright, but I will not force you to be something you do not want to be." "You would do that? Let me walk away?" "I would," he said, though the words clearly cost him. "Because I love you, and love does not cage. Love sets free." Elara felt tears prick her eyes. These were the words she had needed to hear 7 years ago. This was the male she had fallen in love with, the one who put her needs above his own wants. "Ask me," she said suddenly. He blinked. "What?" "Ask me. Now. Privately, before you ask me publicly. Ask me if I will be your mate." Alexandros crossed the room in 3 strides, taking her hands in his. "Elara, my true mate, my heart, my soul. Will you forgive me for my failures? Will you give me the chance to be the male you deserve, the father our children need? Will you stand beside me, not behind me, as we lead our people? Will you be my mate, my queen, my everything?" "Yes," Elara whispered. "Yes, I will." The mate bond surged between them, stronger than ever, a golden thread that bound their souls together. And when he kissed her, it felt like coming home after a long journey. It felt like healing. It felt like rightness itself. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "I still do not forgive you completely," Elara said. "Not yet." "I know," Alexandros said, resting his forehead against hers. "But you will. I will spend the rest of my life earning your complete forgiveness." "See that you do," Elara said, echoing Kale's words to him. They stood together in the moonlight, 2 mates finally reunited, 2 halves of a whole finally made complete. And somewhere in the realm, the moon goddess smiled. Chapter 6, The Claiming Ceremony. The day of the claiming ceremony dawned clear and bright. Elara woke early, nerves fluttering in her stomach like 1,000 butterflies. Today, she would be claimed before the entire realm as the Alpha King's true mate. Today, her children would be formally recognized as heirs. Today, everything would change. Servants arrived at dawn with trunks full of clothes and jewels. At first, Elara wanted to refuse them, to wear her simple homespun dress as a statement of her roots. But then she remembered Nyx's words. If she was to be queen, she must look like a queen. She chose a gown of deep forest green, the color of new growth and life. It was elegant but not ostentatious, beautiful but not impractical. The servants braided her hair with silver threads and placed a simple circlet of silver on her brow. When she emerged from her room, she found her children waiting, dressed in their own new finery. Kale wore dark leather and wool, looking every inch a young prince. Lyra wore a dress of pale blue that matched her eyes, her silver blonde hair loose around her shoulders. And Finn, who had initially protested wearing anything fancy, looked surprisingly pleased with his dark green tunic and leather boots. Mother, Lyra breathed. You look like a queen. I look like myself, Alara corrected gently. Just dressed more finely. Are you scared? Finn asked. Terrified, Alara admitted. But also excited. Will everyone be watching us? Kale wanted to know. Yes. The entire realm has gathered for this ceremony. They will witness our claiming, and your recognition as the Alpha King's children. What if they do not accept us? Lyra asked quietly. Alara knelt down so she was at eye level with her daughter. Then they will answer to your father and to me. You are royal by blood, and no one can change that. But more importantly, you are good, kind, brave young wolves, and that is worth more than any title. Gareth arrived to escort them to the ceremonial ground. This was different from the gathering place. It was a sacred site deep in the forest where the oldest rituals of wolf kind were performed. As they walked through the trees, Alara could hear the sound of hundreds of wolves gathered ahead. Her heart pounded harder with each step. Then they emerged into a clearing, and Alara's breath caught. The clearing was circular, ringed by ancient stones carved with the symbols of the moon goddess. At its center stood an altar of white marble, and before the altar stood Alexandros, dressed in the full regalia of the Alpha King. Behind him stood the Council of Elders, and spreading out in concentric circles around the clearing were what seemed like every wolf in the realm. All eyes turned to Alara and the children as they entered. The whispers were immediate and widespread. Alexandros' eyes found hers across the distance, and she saw love and pride in his gaze. He held out his hand, an invitation. Alara lifted her chin, took her children's hands, and walked forward into her destiny. As they approached the altar, the crowd fell silent. Nyx stepped forward, her voice carrying across the clearing with preternatural clarity. We are gathered on this sacred ground to witness a claiming, she announced. The Alpha King, chosen of the moon goddess, wishes to claim his true mate before the realm. Let all who have objections speak now, or forever hold their peace. Alara held her breath. Would anyone object? Would someone challenge her right to stand beside the king? But the silence held. No voice was raised in protest. Nyx nodded, satisfied. Then let the ceremony begin. Alexandros stepped forward, taking Alara's hand. Before the moon goddess and before my people, I claim you, Alara, as my true mate. You are my equal, my partner, my beloved. From this day forward, what is mine is yours. My crown, my throne, my heart. I offer them all freely, without reservation. He pulled out a ring, a simple band of silver engraved with the phases of the moon. He slipped it onto her finger. Do you accept my claim? He asked formally. I do, Alara said, her voice strong. Before the moon goddess and before the realm, I accept your claim. I claim you in return, Alexandros, Alpha King, as my true mate. From this day forward, I stand beside you, not behind you. I share your burdens and your joys, your triumphs and your trials. I offer you my heart, my strength, my loyalty. She had no ring to give him, but she did not need one. In the old ways, a mate's acceptance was binding enough. Alexandros pulled her close and kissed her, and the mate bond blazed between them, visible to all as a golden light that surrounded them both. The crowd erupted in cheers and howls, the sound echoing through the forest. When they finally pulled apart, Nyx raised her hand for silence. The claiming is complete. Alara is now recognized as the Alpha King's mate and queen of the realm. Queen. The word sent a shiver through Alara. She was queen now. There was no going back. But Nyx was not finished. There is one more matter to address. The Alpha King has 3 children, born of his true mate. They are of royal blood and must be formally recognized before the realm. Alexandros turned to the children, gesturing for them to come forward. They did, though Alara could see the nervousness in their eyes. Kale, Alexandros said, placing his hand on his son's shoulder. You are my eldest son, my heir. From this day forward, you are Prince Kale, first in line to the throne should anything happen to me. Do you accept this responsibility? Kale looked at his mother, then back at his father. I do, father. The word, spoken so naturally, so easily, made Alexandros's eyes shine with unshed tears. He pulled Kale into a brief embrace, then turned to Lyra. Lyra, you are my daughter, my only daughter. From this day forward, you are Princess Lyra, a royal daughter of the realm. Do you accept this title? I do, father, Lyra said softly. Alexandros kissed her forehead gently, then turned to Finn. Finn, you are my youngest son, but no less beloved for it. From this day forward, you are Prince Finn, a royal son of the realm. Do you accept this title? I do, father. Finn said enthusiastically, making the crowd laugh. Alexandros grinned and ruffled Finn's hair. Then he turned back to the crowd, his arm around Alara's waist, his children gathered close. Behold your queen and your princes, he called out, his voice ringing with pride and power. They are mine, and I am theirs. Any who would threaten them threatens me. Any who would honor them honors me. The crowd erupted again, and this time Alara heard genuine celebration in the sound. Not everyone was happy, she was sure. There would be those who resented her common blood, who thought the children should not be recognized. But for now, in this moment, the realm accepted them. The formal ceremony was followed by a feast that lasted late into the night. There was music and dancing, food and drink in abundance. Wolves from all over the realm came to offer their congratulations and to meet the new queen and princes. Some were genuine in their welcome. Others were clearly assessing, calculating, trying to determine how this change in power would affect them. Alara greeted all with equal courtesy, remembering Nyx's warning about being judged and scrutinized. As the moon rose high, Alexandros leaned close to her. You are doing wonderfully, he murmured. I am exhausted, she admitted. How do you do this all the time? Practice, he said with a smile. Years and years of practice. I am not certain I have years left in me tonight, Alara said. Then let us retire. We have done what needed to be done. The rest can wait until tomorrow. They gathered the children, who were flagging despite Finn's insistence that he was not tired at all, and made their way back to the lodge. But instead of returning to Alara's old chamber, Alexandros led them to the royal wing. These will be your chambers now, he said, opening a door to reveal a suite of rooms far grander than anything Alara had ever seen. The children's rooms are connected to yours, and mine are just through that door. He pointed to a door on the far wall. Separate rooms? Alara asked, surprised. For now, Alexandros said carefully. I thought you might appreciate the privacy while you adjust to everything. But I am always near if you need me. It was considerate, and it showed that he was truly trying to respect her boundaries. Alara felt a rush of warmth toward him. Thank you, she said softly. After the children were settled in their new rooms, after they had explored every corner and exclaimed over every luxury, after they had finally fallen asleep, Alara found herself alone for the first time all day. She stood at the window of her new chamber, looking out over the moonlit forest, trying to process everything that had happened. She was queen. Her children were recognized as royalty. And she was bonded once more to the male who had broken her heart 7 years ago. It was everything she had never known she wanted, and it terrified her. There was a soft knock at the connecting door. Alara? Alexandros's voice. May I come in? Yes, she called. He entered, now dressed in simple sleeping clothes rather than his formal regalia. He looked younger somehow, more like the male she had fallen in love with all those years ago. "I wanted to make sure you were all right," he said. "It was a long day." "I am," Alara said. "Just overwhelmed." He came to stand beside her at the window. "I know this is not what you planned for your life. You wanted peace and simplicity, and I have thrust you into the most complicated role in the realm." "You have," Alara agreed. "But I made the choice. I could have refused." "Could you have?" he asked quietly. "Or did I back you into a corner with my public claiming?" It was a fair question. She thought about it honestly. "A bit of both, perhaps. But ultimately, I said yes because I wanted to. Because despite everything, despite the pain and the years apart, you are still my mate. The bond is still there, as strong as ever." "It is," he agreed. "I felt it blaze when we kissed at the ceremony." Everyone felt it. "No going back now," Alara said with a slight smile. "No going back," he echoed. "But Alara, if you truly are unhappy, if this life is not what you want, tell me. We will find another way." "What other way is there?" "We are bonded. The children are recognized. I am queen whether I want to be or not." "You could be queen in name only," he suggested. "I could handle the political matters while you focus on the children, on living the quiet life you prefer." It was tempting. So tempting. But Alara thought of Nyx's words, of the responsibility she now carried. "No," she said finally. "If I am to be queen, I will be queen in truth. I will learn what I need to learn, do what I need to do. I will not be a decorative figure while you carry all the burdens alone." Pride shone in his eyes. "You are remarkable, do you know that?" "I am stubborn," Alara corrected. "There is a difference." "I think in this case, they are the same thing," he said with a smile. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the moon trek across the sky. Finally, Alexandra spoke again. "I should let you rest. Tomorrow will be another long day." "What happens tomorrow?" "The council will want to meet with you. To discuss your role, to explain the workings of the court. And there will be more wolves coming to pay their respects. It will likely take weeks before things settle into a normal routine." "Wonderful," Alara said dryly. He laughed and kissed her forehead. "You will be fine. Better than fine. You will be magnificent. Your confidence in me is touching, if possibly misplaced." "It is not misplaced," he said seriously. "I have seen you raise 3 children alone. I have seen your strength, your wisdom, your compassion. You have all the qualities of a great queen. You simply need to believe it yourself." "Then I hope belief comes quickly," Alara said. He kissed her once more, properly this time, and the mate bond hummed between them. "Good night, my queen. Good night, my king." After he left, Alara prepared for bed. As she slipped between the silk sheets, so different from the rough blankets of her old life, she sent up a prayer to the moon goddess. "Let me be strong enough for this. Let me be wise enough. Let me not fail the wolves who now depend on me." The moon seemed to shine a bit brighter through the window, and Alara chose to take that as a sign of blessing. Chapter 7, The Queen's Education. The next morning, Alara woke to find servants had already laid out clothes for her and prepared a breakfast that could have fed her entire village. She ate what she could, dressed in the gown that had been selected, and prepared herself for the day ahead. True to Alexandra's word, the council was waiting to meet with her. Nyx was there, along with several other elders whose names Alara struggled to remember. They spent the morning explaining the structure of the court, the various factions and families, the delicate balance of power that kept the realm functioning. It was overwhelming, and more than once Alara felt completely out of her depth. But she listened carefully, asked questions when she did not understand, and tried to absorb as much as she could. In the afternoon, a tutor arrived to begin teaching her the formal protocols of court. How to address different ranks of wolves, how to conduct herself at official functions, the proper way to receive petitions and delegations. It was exhausting, and Alara found herself longing for the simple days when her biggest concern was whether the hunt would be successful. The children, meanwhile, were receiving their own education. Tutors had been assigned to each of them to teach them reading and writing, mathematics, and history, all the things that royal children were expected to know. Cale took to it eagerly, his quick mind soaking up knowledge like a sponge. Lyra was more reserved but equally capable. Finn, predictably, struggled to sit still for lessons and was constantly looking for ways to escape to the outdoors. "He reminds me of myself at that age," Alexandra said one evening as they watched Finn try to convince his tutor that he absolutely needed to go study the behavior of rabbits in their natural habitat right that very moment. "Is that supposed to reassure me?" Alara asked dryly. "I turned out all right," Alexandros pointed out. "Barely," Gareth muttered, passing by with a stack of documents. Alexandros threw a cushion at his first guardian, who caught it without breaking stride or even looking back. Despite the challenges, a routine began to emerge. Mornings were for lessons and council meetings. Afternoons were for petitions and official business. Evenings were for the family, time when Alexandros would set aside his duties and focus entirely on Alara and the children. Those evening hours became precious to all of them. They would gather in the family quarters, and Alexandros would tell stories of his own childhood, of the battles he had fought, of the challenges he had faced. The children would share what they had learned that day, and Alara would describe her struggles with court protocol, often making everyone laugh with her tales of near disasters. "Today," she announced one evening, "I accidentally insulted the representative from the Northern Pack by using the wrong form of address." "Oh no," Alexandros said, though his eyes were twinkling. "How badly?" "I essentially called him a low-born commoner unworthy of speaking to me." The children gasped. "Mother!" Lyra exclaimed. "I know. And the worst part was, I did not even realize what I had done until I saw the look on Nyx's face. She had to smooth things over while I stood there like an idiot." "What did you do?" Cale asked. "I apologized profusely and claimed ignorance of the proper forms, which is true enough. He eventually forgave me, though I think he thinks I am either incredibly stupid or incredibly arrogant." "Probably both," Finn said cheerfully. "Finn." Alara tried to sound stern but ended up laughing instead. "He is not wrong," Alexandros admitted. "But you are learning. That is what matters." "I feel like I am drowning in titles and protocols," Alara confessed. "How does anyone remember all of this?" "Years of practice," Alexandros said. "And honestly, most wolves do not remember all of it. They just fake it and hope no one notices." "That is not reassuring." "It is honest though," he said with a grin. As the weeks passed, Alara gradually became more comfortable in her role. She stopped accidentally insulting dignitaries, learned to navigate the complex politics of court, and even began to enjoy some aspects of being queen. She particularly enjoyed the petitions, the time when common wolves could bring their concerns directly to the king and queen. Alara found she had a knack for listening to people, for understanding the real issues beneath the formal complaints. More than once, Alexandros deferred to her judgment on matters involving families or children, recognizing that she had insights he lacked. "You are good at this," he told her one evening after a particularly long day of petitions. "At what?" "At being queen. At caring for the wolves of the realm." "I just listen to them," Alara said. "The way I would want someone to listen to me if I had a problem." "That is more than many rulers do," Alexandros said seriously. They hear the words but do not truly listen. You listen. Alara felt warmth spread through her at the praise. She was beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could do this after all. But not everything was smooth. There were wolves who resented her elevation from common to queen. There were rumors, whispers that she had used her children to trap the Alpha King, that she was unsuitable for her position, that her blood was too low for such a role. Alara tried to ignore the whispers, but they stung nonetheless. One day, she overheard two court ladies talking as she passed a doorway. Can you believe it? A common wolf sitting on the throne. What is the realm coming to? And those children. Half-wild things, raised in some backwater village. They have no business being called princes and princess. The Alpha King must have been bewitched. There is no other explanation. Alara stopped walking, her hand gripping the doorframe. Part of her wanted to march in there and confront them. But Nyx's voice echoed in her mind. A queen must be above such petty concerns. She must show grace even in the face of disrespect. So Alara took a deep breath, lifted her chin, and walked away. But that evening, when Alexandros asked her how her day was, she found herself confessing what she had heard. They are fools, Alexandros said immediately, his eyes flashing with anger. I will have them brought before the court and made to apologize. No, Alara said quickly. That will only make it worse. They will say I am vindictive, that I cannot handle criticism. They have no right to speak of you that way. They have every right to their opinions, Alara said tiredly. And in some ways, they are not wrong. I am common-born. The children were raised in a small village. We do not fit the traditional mold of royalty. There is no mold, Alexandros insisted. Or if there is, it needs to be broken. You are queen because you are my mate, because the moon goddess chose you for me. That is the only qualification that matters. To you, perhaps. But to them, to many wolves in the realm, bloodlines and tradition matter. Alexandros was quiet for a moment. Then he said, let me tell you something. When I first became Alpha King, there were many who said I was unsuitable. I was too young, too aggressive, too unconventional. They said I would lead the realm to ruin. But I proved them wrong, not by trying to be what they expected, but by being myself. You must do the same. What if myself is not enough? It is, he said firmly. You are enough, Alara. More than enough. His certainty helped, but the doubts lingered. Alara found herself working harder, trying to prove herself worthy of the position she had been given. She spent extra hours studying protocols, extra time meeting with wolves from all corners of the realm, extra effort in everything she did. The children noticed. Mother, Kale said one evening, you look tired. I am fine, my heart. You are not fine, Lyra said quietly. You are pushing yourself too hard. I have responsibilities now, Alara said. Important ones. But you are still our mother, Finn said, climbing into her lap despite being almost too big for it. And mothers are supposed to take care of themselves too. Alara hugged her youngest son close, feeling tears prick her eyes. When did you all become so wise? We learned from you, Kale said simply. That night, Alexandros found her standing at the window again, staring out at the moon. You need to rest, he said gently. I need to be better, Alara replied. I need to prove that I deserve this position. You have nothing to prove. I have everything to prove. Alara turned to face him. Every day, wolves look at me and see a common female who does not belong. Every day, I hear the whispers and see the doubt in their eyes. I have to be better than good. I have to be perfect. Perfection is impossible, Alexandros said. And exhausting yourself trying to achieve it will only harm you and our family. Then what am I supposed to do? Be yourself, he said, echoing his earlier advice. The wolves will accept you or they will not. But you cannot control their opinions. All you can control is who you are and how you lead. That is easier said than done. I know. But I am here. I will support you through this, just as you support me. Alara leaned into him, letting him wrap his arms around her. For the first time since the claiming ceremony, she let herself simply be held, let herself be vulnerable. I am afraid, she admitted quietly. Afraid I will fail you. Fail them. Fail everyone. You will not, he said with absolute certainty. Because you care too much to fail. That caring, that compassion, is what makes you a good queen. Not your knowledge of protocols or your mastery of court politics. Those things can be learned. But caring for your people, truly caring, that comes from the heart. And your heart, Alara, is the strongest thing about you. His words settled something in her, eased a tension she had been carrying. She was doing her best, and perhaps that would have to be enough. Chapter 8, Shadows of the Past. 3 months after the claiming ceremony, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Alara had grown more confident in her role as queen, the children were thriving in their education, and the family had become a true unit. Alexandros made time for them every day, and slowly, the wounds of the past were healing. But one morning, everything changed. Alara was in a council meeting when a messenger burst into the room, his face pale with urgency. My king, my queen, he gasped. There has been an attack on the eastern border. Rogues, a large group of them. Alexandros was on his feet immediately. How many? At least 20, maybe more. They attacked a small village, killed several wolves, and took captives. Alara's blood ran cold. Rogues were wolves who had been cast out from their packs, who lived without law or honor. They were dangerous, unpredictable, and violent. Assemble the warriors, Alexandros commanded. I will lead them myself. No, Alara said, surprising herself. You cannot. Everyone turned to stare at her. It was highly irregular for the queen to contradict the king in open council. Alara, Alexandros said carefully. This is my duty. Your duty is to the entire realm, Alara argued. If you fall in battle, the realm loses its king. Send your warriors, send your best soldiers, but you must stay here. She is right, Nick said unexpectedly. The Alpha King is too valuable to risk on a raid, even a serious one. Send Gareth. He is more than capable of handling rogues. Alexandros looked torn. Alara could see the warrior in him straining to go, to fight, to protect his people personally. But the king in him knew they were right. Very well, he said finally. Gareth, take 50 warriors. Find these rogues and eliminate them. Rescue any captives and return them safely. As you command, my king, Gareth said, bowing. Within an hour, Gareth and his warriors had departed. Alexandros paced the council chamber like a caged wolf, clearly frustrated at being left behind. You made the right decision, Alara told him quietly. Did I? While I sit here in safety, my wolves are riding into danger. Your wolves are trained warriors. They know what they are doing. And they need their king to be here, to lead the realm, not lying dead on some battlefield. He stopped pacing and looked at her. When did you become so wise in matters of war? When I became queen, Alara said. When I realized that my role is not just to support you, but to challenge you when necessary. A slow smile spread across his face. You are right. Thank you for speaking up, even when it was difficult. That is what mates do, Alara said. The days that followed were tense. News from the eastern border was slow to arrive, and with each passing day, worry grew. Alara found herself constantly checking the roads, watching for signs of the warriors' return. The children sensed the tension and became quieter, more subdued. Even Finn's usual exuberance was muted. On the fifth day, a scout returned with news. The rogues had been found and engaged. There had been a battle. Casualties on both sides. Gareth? Alexandros demanded. What of Gareth? He lives, my king. He was wounded but not gravely. They are returning with the captives. Relief flooded through Alara. The first guardian lived, and the captives were safe. The warriors returned late that evening, exhausted and bloodied but victorious. Gareth had a nasty gash across his shoulder that the healers immediately began tending to. The captives, 3 females and 2 young males, were traumatized but alive. Alexandros personally welcomed each warrior back, thanking them for their service. Then he turned to the captives. You are safe now, he told them gently. You will be cared for here until you are ready to return to your homes. The eldest of the females, a thin wolf with haunted eyes, looked at him and then at Alara. Thank you, my king, my queen. The rogues would have killed us all if your warriors had not come. What did they want? Alara asked. Why did they attack your village? The female hesitated. They were looking for someone. A female and her children. They said the Alpha King had stolen what was rightfully theirs. Alara's blood turned to ice. Alexandros's expression darkened. Did they say who they were looking for? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. No, my king. Only that the female had hidden for years, but they had finally found her trail. Alara and Alexandros exchanged glances. It could not be a coincidence. After the captives had been taken to be cared for, after the warriors had been dismissed, Alexandros called an emergency meeting of his closest advisors. Someone is looking for Alara, he said without preamble. Someone who knows she was hidden, who knows about the children. But who? Nyx asked. And why? I do not know, Alexandros admitted. But we will find out. Gareth, despite his injury, leaned forward. We captured 3 of the rogues alive. They are in the dungeons. I will question them. Do so, Alexandros commanded. Find out who sent them and what they want. After the meeting, Alara found herself back in her chambers, pacing. The fear she had kept at bay for months was back, sharper than ever. Someone was hunting her. Someone had sent rogues after her and her children. Alexandros entered without knocking, his face grim. The children are to have guards at all times. You as well. Do you think we are in danger here? I do not know. But I will not take chances. Not with you. Not with them. Alara nodded. What did the rogues say? Gareth is questioning them now. We should have answers soon. But it was 3 days before Gareth finally had information. He came to them looking exhausted and frustrated. They were hired, he reported. By a wolf they only knew as the Silver One. They were paid to search the outer territories for a female fitting Alara's description and her 3 children. If they found her, they were to capture her and bring her to a location in the northern forests. The Silver One, Alexandros repeated. That tells us nothing. Actually, Nyx said slowly, it might. Silver wolves are rare. There are only a handful in the realm with predominantly silver coloring. Serafina, Alara said suddenly. She has silver hair. But she agreed to the dissolution, Alexandros protested. She wanted it as much as I did. Publicly, yes, Nyx said carefully. But perhaps privately she harbors resentment. Or perhaps someone in her family does. Her brother Matthias has many wolves loyal to him. I will send for her, Alexandros said. If she is involved, I will know. But when messengers were sent to Seraphina's lands, they returned with troubling news. Seraphina had disappeared 2 weeks prior. Her mate, Cassius, reported that she had gone for a walk in the forest and never returned. He had been searching for her ever since. This is wrong, Alara said. Something is very wrong. I agree, Alexandros said grimly. Either Seraphina is involved and has gone into hiding, or she herself has been taken. If she has been taken, Gareth said, then someone is working against both of you. Someone who wants to destabilize the realm. The implications were staggering. If this was a plot against the throne, it could be the beginning of a much larger conflict. Alexandros made a decision. We increase security around the royal family. We send scouts to search for Seraphina. And we prepare for the possibility of war. War. Alara whispered. If someone is bold enough to hire rogues to attack villages and kidnap members of the royal family, they will not stop here. This is only the beginning. That night, Alara lay awake long after Alexandros had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep beside her. They had grown closer over the past months, and now he often stayed in her chambers rather than returning to his own. She found comfort in his presence, especially now when danger seemed to lurk in every shadow. She thought about the rogues, about the mysterious Silver One, about Seraphina's disappearance. Nothing made sense. Who would benefit from destabilizing Alexandros's rule? Who had the resources to hire rogues and conduct elaborate searches? And most importantly, how much danger were her children truly in? As if sensing her thoughts, the door to the children's room opened, and Cale slipped into her chamber. I cannot sleep, he whispered. Alara shifted, making room for him in the bed. He climbed in, and she wrapped her arms around him. I am scared, Mother, he admitted quietly. I heard the adults talking. Someone is hunting us. Yes, Alara said, because she would not lie to him. But you are safe here. Your father will not let anything happen to you. What if he cannot stop them? What if they are too strong? Then I will stop them, Alara said fiercely. I kept you safe for 7 years before your father even knew you existed. I will not fail to keep you safe now. Cale looked up at her with those golden eyes. You are strong, Mother. Stronger than anyone knows. I have to be, Alara said softly. For you and your siblings. You three are my heart. I would fight the entire world to keep you safe. I know, Cale said. That is why I am not as scared as I should be. Because I have you. Alara kissed his forehead and held him close, this son of hers who was growing too fast, who was already showing signs of the leader he would become. Whatever was coming, whoever was behind this, they would face it together. As a family. And may the moon goddess help anyone who tried to harm her children. Chapter 9, The Silver Truth. The answer came from an unexpected source. 5 days after the attack, a lone wolf arrived at the lodge gates, half dead from exhaustion and wounds. When the guards brought him before Alexandros, he gasped out a single word before collapsing. Seraphina. The healers worked on him for hours while Alexandros, Alara, and the council waited anxiously. Finally, as the sun began to set, the lead healer emerged. He will live, my king. But he needs rest. Can he speak? Alexandros asked urgently. Briefly. But do not tax him too much. They entered the healing chamber to find the wolf awake, his eyes feverish but clear. He was young, barely 20 winters, and his clothes marked him as one of Seraphina's household guard. Tell us, Alexandros commanded gently. What happened to Seraphina? The guard's words came out in a rush. She was taken, my king. By her own brother. Stunned silence filled the room. Matthias? Alexandros said. But he is my ally. We made peace. Not Matthias, the guard corrected weakly. Her other brother. Silas. Alara felt the pieces click into place. I did not know Serafina had another brother. Few do, Nick said slowly. Silas was cast out from their family years ago for his violent temperament and lust for power. He wanted to be the one to challenge for the throne, but Matthias beat him to it. After the treaty was signed, Silas disappeared. We thought he had left the realm entirely. He came back, the guard said. He has been building an army of rogues and discontented wolves. He took Serafina to use as leverage against both you, my king, and Matthias. He wants to destroy the treaty, plunge the realm into war, and claim the throne for himself in the chaos. And the hunt for Alara and the children? Alexandros asked. He knew about them, the guard said. Serafina told him, thinking he was just her brother, not realizing he would use the information against her. He planned to capture the true maiden heirs, to hold them hostage and force you to abdicate. Rage filled Alexandros's face, a cold fury that made even Alara take a step back. Where is he? The northern forests, my king. He has established a camp in the old ruins near the Black Mountains. That is where he holds Serafina. How many wolves does he have? At least 100, maybe more. Rogues mostly, but also some pack wolves who are dissatisfied with your rule. Alexandros turned to Gareth. Assemble the army. We march at dawn. My king, Nyx interjected. This could be a trap. If you leave the capital with your army, the lodge will be vulnerable. Then I will leave guards here. But I will not abandon Serafina to that monster, and I will not allow this threat to continue. Silas has declared war. I will answer it. I am coming with you, Alara said. Absolutely not, Alexandros said immediately. You cannot leave me here wondering if you will return. I am your mate, your queen. My place is beside you. Your place is with the children, keeping them safe. The children will be safe here with guards and the council to protect them. But I am coming with you. Alara's voice was firm, brooking no argument. They stared at each other, wills clashing. Finally, Alexandros said, You are not trained for battle. Then I will stay behind the lines. But I will be there. Alara. Alexandros. She matched his tone. Do not ask me to sit here helplessly while you ride into danger. I cannot do it. I will not do it. He closed his eyes, struggling with himself. If anything happened to you, nothing will happen to me. You will make sure of it. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. You are the most stubborn female I have ever known. It is one of my best qualities, Alara said. Very well, he said finally. But you stay with me at all times. You do not leave my sight. And if I tell you to run, you run. Agreed? Agreed. The children were less easily convinced. You cannot go, Lyra said, her voice shaking. What if something happens to you? Nothing will happen, Alara assured her. Your father will keep me safe. We should come too, Kale said. We can fight. No, both Alara and Alexandros said together. You are 7 years old, Alexandros told his son gently. You are brave and strong, but you are not yet warriors. Your duty is to stay here, to protect each other, to be ready to lead if, he paused, choosing his words carefully, if anything should happen to your mother and me. Nothing will happen, Alara said firmly. But your father is right. You must stay here. Nyx and the council will watch over you. Promise you will come back, Finn demanded, tears in his eyes. I promise, Alara said, pulling all 3 children into her arms. I will always come back to you. Always. The army assembled at dawn, 300 of the realm's finest warriors. They were a formidable force, armed and armored, mounted on the swiftest horses. Alexandros rode at their head, and Alara rode beside him, dressed in leather armor that Gareth had insisted she wear. The journey to the northern forests took 3 days of hard riding. As they traveled, scouts brought back information about Silas's camp. It was well defended, positioned in ruins that gave the defenders a significant advantage. A direct assault would cost many lives, Gareth reported. We need a strategy. They made camp a mile from the ruins and held a council of war. Alexandros studied the maps and reports, his mind working through various approaches. What if we do not attack at all? Alara suggested quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Explain, Alexandros said. Silas wants you to attack. He wants war. It legitimizes his position, makes him look like a defender rather than an aggressor. What if instead, you offer to negotiate? Offer to speak with him directly. He will never agree, Gareth said. He might, Alara argued. His entire plan depends on destabilizing your rule. But if you appear weak, indecisive, willing to negotiate with a traitor, it could draw him out. He will want to gloat, to see you humbled. You want me to pretend to be weak, Alexandros said slowly. I want you to appear willing to do anything to avoid war, Alara corrected. Play to his ego. Make him think he has already won. And then? And then, when he comes out to gloat, we capture him. It was a risky plan, one that depended on Silas's arrogance and Alexandros's willingness to appear weak in front of his enemy. But after much discussion, it was decided to try it. A messenger was sent to the ruins with an offer. The Alpha King wished to parley, to discuss terms for peace. He would come with only a small escort. He wished to avoid bloodshed if possible. The response came back within hours. Silas agreed to meet, but in a clearing between the armies, not in his camp. And Alexandros could bring no more than 10 wolves with him. It is a trap, Gareth said flatly. Of course it is, Alexandros agreed. But it is also an opportunity. We will be ready. The meeting was set for the next day at noon. Alexandros chose his escort carefully, 10 of his best warriors, wolves he trusted absolutely. Alara was not among them. You will stay with the army, he told her. But Alexandros. No arguments. This is too dangerous. Alara wanted to protest, but she saw the fear in his eyes, the desperate need to keep her safe. So she agreed, though every instinct screamed at her to stay by his side. The next morning, Alexandros and his small escort rode out to the clearing. Alara watched from the army's position, her heart in her throat. Silas emerged from the ruins with his own escort. Even from a distance, Alara could see the resemblance to Seraphina, the same silver hair, the same aristocratic features. But where Seraphina had been elegant, Silas was brutal, his face marked with scars and his eyes cold. The two groups met in the center of the clearing. Alara strained to hear what was being said, but they were too far away. Then everything happened at once. Silas laughed, a sound that carried across the distance. He gestured, and suddenly rogues poured out of the forest on all sides, dozens of them, surrounding Alexandros and his escort. Now! Gareth shouted, and the army surged forward. But they were too far away. Alara watched in horror as Alexandros and his warriors were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. They fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Without thinking, Alara shifted into her wolf form and ran. She heard Gareth shouting behind her, but she did not stop. Her mate was in danger, and nothing else mattered. She tore across the ground, faster than she had ever run, and launched herself into the fray. Her jaws found a rogue's throat, and she ripped it out. Another came at her, and she dodged, her claws raking across its side. "Elara!" Alexandros's voice, surprised and furious. But there was no time to argue. The army had arrived, and the clearing erupted into full battle. It was chaos, wolves and rogues clashing in a violent melee. Through it all, Elara stayed close to Alexandros, guarding his back as he fought. They moved as one, perfectly synchronized, the mate bond allowing them to anticipate each other's movements. She saw Silas trying to slip away in the confusion and made a split-second decision. She left Alexandros's side and pursued the silver wolf, chasing him back toward the ruins. "Elara, no!" Alexandros shouted, but she was already gone. Silas led her into the ruins, through crumbling stone corridors. Elara followed, knowing this could be a trap but unable to let him escape. She found him in what had once been a great hall, now open to the sky. And beside him, chained to a pillar, was Seraphina. The former queen looked terrible, thin and bruised, but her eyes blazed with defiance when she saw Silas. "So," Silas said, shifting back to his human form. Elara did the same, wishing she had her clothes but refusing to show weakness. "The common queen comes to save the day." "How touching." "Release her," Elara demanded. "Or what? You will fight me?" Silas laughed. "You are not a warrior, little wolf. You are a mother, soft and weak." "I am a mother," Elara agreed. "And that makes me more dangerous than you can imagine. Because I will do anything to protect my family. And right now, you threaten my family." Silas moved fast, faster than she expected. His claws raked across her shoulder, and pain exploded through her. But Elara had not survived 7 years alone by being weak. She had hunted and fought and protected her children from dangers Silas could not imagine. She shifted again, mid-movement, and her wolf form slammed into him. They rolled across the stone floor, teeth and claws seeking purchase. He was stronger, but she was faster, more desperate. And then Alexandros was there, in his massive black wolf form, and Silas did not stand a chance. The Alpha King's fury was terrible to behold. Within seconds, Silas was pinned beneath him, whimpering. Alexandros shifted back, his hand at Silas's throat. "You threatened my mate. You threatened my children. You kidnapped my former queen and tried to plunge the realm into war. Give me one reason I should not tear out your throat right now." "Do it," Seraphina called weakly from where she was chained. "He deserves no mercy." But Alexandros hesitated. "I am not a murderer. I am a king. And kings must rule by law, not vengeance." He knocked Silas unconscious instead and moved to free Seraphina. As he broke her chains, she collapsed into his arms. "Thank you," she whispered. "I am sorry. I told him about Elara and the children. I did not know he would use it against you." "You are not to blame," Alexandros said gently. "He manipulated you." Elara, still in her wolf form, limped over to them. The wound on her shoulder was bleeding heavily, and she was feeling light-headed. Alexandros saw her injury and cursed. He shifted her back to human form with his alpha power and examined the wound. "You are bleeding." "I am fine," Elara said, though her voice was weak. "You are not fine. You are never going into battle again, do you hear me?" "Never." "We can argue about that later," Elara said. "Right now, we need to get out of here." They emerged from the ruins to find that the battle was over. Gareth and the army had defeated the rogues, most of whom had surrendered once they realized Silas had been captured. The healers rushed to tend to Elara's wound while Alexandros refused to leave her side, holding her hand and looking furious and terrified in equal measure. You could have been killed, he said for the 10th time. But I was not, Alara replied for the 10th time. You promised to stay with the army. I promised nothing of the sort. You told me to stay with the army. I did not agree. Despite everything, Alexandros laughed. You are impossible. And you love me anyway. I do, he said seriously. More than life itself. Which is why the thought of losing you terrifies me. Then it is a good thing you will not lose me, Alara said. I am too stubborn to die. The journey back to the capital took longer, as they had wounded to care for and prisoners to transport. Silas was kept in chains, guarded constantly. Serafina recovered slowly with proper food and care. When they finally reached the lodge, the children came running out to meet them. Alara barely had time to dismount before all three slammed into her, nearly knocking her over. You came back. Finn cried. I promised I would, Alara said, hugging them tight. Kale pulled back and looked at her shoulder, which was bandaged heavily. You are hurt. I am healing, Alara assured him. It looks worse than it is. You fought, Lyra said, not a question but a statement. I did. Because your father needed me. And because you are the bravest wolf in the realm, Alexandros added, dismounting beside them. Though also the most reckless. I learned from the best, Alara said with a smile. That evening, after the children had finally been convinced to go to bed after hours of hearing about the battle, Alexandros and Alara stood on their balcony, looking out at the moon. Silas will be tried and executed, Alexandros said quietly. The council has already agreed. He will be made an example of, so no one else will consider such treachery. And Serafina? She asked to return to her lands with Cassius. I agreed. She has suffered enough. Alara nodded. She was a victim in this too. Yes. Alexandros pulled Alara close, being careful of her injury. I almost lost you today. But you did not. I cannot go through that again. Promise me you will never put yourself in danger like that again. Alara pulled back to look at him. I cannot promise that. If you are in danger, I will always come for you. That is what mates do. That is what love means. He stared at her for a long moment, then kissed her deeply. Then we will simply have to make sure we stay out of danger together. Agreed, Alara said with a laugh. As they stood together under the moon's light, Alara reflected on how far they had come. From broken hearts and 7 years of separation to a family reunited and a love stronger than ever. They had faced enemies and overcome them. They had built something beautiful and true. And whatever the future brought, they would face it together. Chapter 10, The Gathering of Heirs. 1 year after the battle with Silas, the realm had settled into a period of peace and prosperity. The children were growing rapidly, showing more of their alpha nature with each passing day. Kale was already being groomed for leadership, sitting in on council meetings and learning the intricacies of governance. Lyra had discovered a gift for diplomacy, often mediating disputes between pack members with wisdom beyond her years. And Finn, though still wild and exuberant, was showing promise as a warrior, his speed and instincts exceptional. Alara had fully grown into her role as queen. She was no longer the uncertain female trying to navigate court politics. She had become a force in her own right, beloved by the common wolves for her accessibility and fairness, respected by the nobility for her wisdom and strength. Alexandros was happier than he had been in years. His family was complete, his realm was at peace, and his bond with his mate had only grown stronger with each passing day. They ruled together, true partners in all things. On the anniversary of their claiming ceremony, Alexandros decided to hold another great gathering, not out of necessity but out of celebration. He wanted all the wolves of the realm to come together, to see how strong and united they had become under his leadership and Alara's compassion. The gathering was magnificent. Wolves came from all corners of the realm, thousands of them, filling the ceremonial grounds. There were games and competitions, feasts and music, celebrations that lasted 3 days and 3 nights. On the final day, Alexandros called for quiet. He stood on the platform with Alara beside him and the children behind them, the entire royal family united before the realm. 1 year ago, Alexandros said, his voice carrying across the crowd, we faced a threat that could have torn our realm apart. But we stood together, fought together, and emerged stronger than before. Today, I want to honor those who made that possible. He gestured, and Gareth stepped forward. You have served as my first guardian for 10 years. Your loyalty, your courage, your friendship have been invaluable. But it is time for you to receive the recognition you deserve. Alexandros presented Gareth with a silver circlet, marking him as High Guardian, a newly created position of honor. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Gareth bowed deeply, clearly moved by the recognition. And now, Alexandros continued, I wish to speak of the future. My children, Kale, Lyra, and Finn, are the future of this realm. They carry within them the strength of their bloodline, the wisdom of their upbringing, and the love of their parents. As they grow, they will take on more responsibilities, will learn to lead, and will become the wolves this realm needs them to be. He gestured for the children to step forward. They did, standing tall and proud, no longer the shy 7-year-olds who had first been presented to the realm, but confident 8-year-olds who had learned much in the past year. Today, Alexandros said, I formally name my son Kale as Crown Prince, heir to the throne. When the time comes, and may it be many years hence, he will rule this realm with wisdom and strength. Kale bowed to his father, then to the crowd. I accept this honor and this burden. I swear to serve the realm with all that I am, to lead with justice and compassion, to honor the legacy my parents have built. The crowd cheered, and Alara felt tears prick her eyes. Her son, speaking with such confidence and maturity, accepting a destiny that had been hidden from him for so long. Alexandros turned to Lyra next. My daughter, you have shown a gift for bringing wolves together, for finding common ground where others see only division. I name you Ambassador Princess, tasked with maintaining peace among the packs and representing our realm to others. Lyra curtsied gracefully. I accept this honor, Father. I will work to ensure that all wolves, regardless of pack or status, feel heard and valued. More cheers, and Alara saw the pride shining in Alexandros' eyes. Finally, he turned to Finn. My youngest son, you have the heart of a warrior and the spirit of a wild wind. I name you Sentinel Prince, tasked with protecting this realm from threats both within and without. When you are grown and trained, you will lead the royal guard. Finn stood as tall as his small frame would allow. I will protect our family and our realm with my life, Father. No one will harm those under our care. The crowd went wild, howling and cheering. The royal children had been given their roles, their purposes, their places in the future of the realm. Alexandros raised his hand for quiet once more. But most importantly, I wish to honor the wolf who made all of this possible. My mate, my queen, my Alara. He turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. 7 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I let you go. I chose duty over love, politics over my heart. And you, rather than become bitter, rather than give up, raised our children alone. You gave them everything they needed to become the exceptional young wolves they are today. You sacrificed your comfort, your status, your very identity to keep them safe and happy. Alara felt tears streaming down her face now, unable to stop them. And then, Alexandros continued, when fate brought us back together, you gave me a gift I did not deserve. A second chance. You forgave me, though I had not earned it. You stood beside me, though I had given you every reason to walk away. You became a queen, though you never sought such a role. And in doing so, you showed this realm what true strength looks like. He released one of her hands and reached into his pocket, pulling out a circlet far more ornate than the one he had given Gareth. It was crafted of silver and gold intertwined, set with moonstones that seemed to glow with their own light. This is the crown of the true mate, Alexandros said. It has been passed down through generations of Alpha Kings, given only to the mate who is chosen by the moon goddess herself. My father gave it to my mother. His father gave it to his mother. And now, I will give it to you. He placed the crown on her head, and as it settled onto her brow, Alara felt a surge of power, ancient and profound. The mate bond blazed between them, visible to all as a golden light that enveloped them both. You are my queen, Alexandros said, his voice thick with emotion. Not because I made you so, but because the moon goddess chose you for me. You are the other half of my soul, the strength that balances my weakness, the compassion that tempers my justice. I love you, Alara. I have loved you from the moment I first saw you, and I will love you until my last breath and beyond. I love you too, Alara whispered, not caring that thousands of wolves were watching. Always and forever. They kissed, and the crowd erupted in such cheers and howls that the very ground seemed to shake with the sound. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through their tears. Alexandros turned back to the crowd. Let this day be remembered, he called out. Let it be known that love, true love, is the strongest force in all the world. It is stronger than duty, stronger than politics, stronger than time itself. My mate hid our children for years because she thought she had to. But now they stand here, acknowledged and celebrated. Our family is whole. Our realm is strong. And all because of love. The celebration continued long into the night. Wolves danced and sang, shared stories and food, celebrated the royal family and the peace they had brought to the realm. As the moon rose high, Alara found herself standing at the edge of the gathering, watching her children play with other young wolves. Kale was leading a game of strategy, Lyra was settling a dispute between two pups, and Finn was running wild, laughing as he chased and was chased. They were happy. They were loved. They were exactly where they belonged. Alexandros came to stand beside her, slipping his arm around her waist. What are you thinking? I am thinking, Alara said slowly, about the path that led us here. All the pain, all the years apart, all the struggles. And I am thinking that I would not change any of it. No? Alexandros asked, surprised. No. Because all of it, every hardship, every terror, every lonely night, led us to this moment. To our children being happy and whole, to our love being stronger than ever, to this family we have built. If I had to suffer it all again to get here, I would do it in a heartbeat. Alexandros pulled her closer. You are extraordinary, do you know that? I am simply a mother who loves her children and a mate who loves her king. You are so much more than that, he said seriously. You are the heart of this realm, Alara. The wolves love you because you understand them. You have lived as they live, struggled as they struggle. You are one of them in a way I can never be. You are their king. That is enough. Only because you are their queen, he countered. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the celebrations, watching their children, watching the realm they had built together through love and sacrifice and unwavering commitment. Do you ever wonder, Alara asked softly, what our lives would have been like if things had been different? If you had claimed me 7 years ago? Every day, Alexandros admitted. But then I think about who our children have become because of the life you gave them. Kale's humility, Lyra's compassion, Finn's joy in simple things. Those are gifts you gave them by raising them away from the politics of court. If we had been together from the beginning, they might have become spoiled, entitled, disconnected from the common wolves. So perhaps, he said thoughtfully, perhaps the moon goddess knew what she was doing all along. A comforting thought, Alara said with a slight smile. That our pain had purpose. All pain has purpose, if we learn from it, Alexandros said. And I have learned so much from ours. I have learned that love cannot be ignored or suppressed. I have learned that duty and love are not enemies but allies, that a king who cannot honor his own heart cannot truly lead his people. I have learned that the bravest thing is not to deny what you feel, but to embrace it fully, consequences and all. Alara turned in his arms, looking up at him. And I have learned that forgiveness is not weakness but strength. That second chances are worth giving. That love, real love, endures even when tested by time and distance and pain. We are quite wise for a pair of fools who nearly threw away their happiness, Alexandros said with a wry smile. The best wisdom comes from making the biggest mistakes, Alara replied. A servant approached, bowing low. My king, my queen. The children are asking for you. They wish to show you something. Alara and Alexandros exchanged glances, then followed the servant to where the children waited. They had gathered a group of young wolves, both noble and common, and were organizing them into teams for some kind of game. Mother, father, Kale called. We have created a new tradition. A game where all young wolves, regardless of their birth, can compete as equals. Will you watch the first match? Alara felt her heart swell with pride. Her children, bringing wolves together, breaking down the barriers of class and status that had divided the realm for generations. We would be honored, she said. They sat on a nearby log and watched as the children played, laughing and competing with genuine joy. Noble pups played alongside common ones, future alphas beside future hunters, all of them simply young wolves having fun. This, Alexandros said quietly, gesturing to the scene before them, this is why we went through everything we did. So that our children could grow up knowing that what matters is not where you come from, but who you are and what you choose to become. They will change the realm, Alara said with certainty. When Kale becomes king, with Lyra and Finn beside him, they will build something even better than what we have now. They will create a realm where every wolf, common or noble, has value and voice. Because you taught them that, Alexandros said. Your common blood is not a weakness, Alara. It is their greatest strength. It connects them to the very wolves they will one day lead. As the evening wore on and the games concluded, the children came running back, flushed and happy. Did you see, Mother? Lyra asked. Everyone played together. No one cared about ranks or titles. I saw, Alara said, hugging her daughter. I am so proud of you. All of you. We learned it from you, Kale said simply. You taught us that every wolf matters, that kindness is more important than status, that true strength comes from compassion, not just power. Finn tugged on Alexandros' sleeve. Father, when I am grown, can I make sure all the warriors train together? Not just the nobles? You can do whatever you think is right, Alexandros told him. That is what it means to be a leader. To see what is wrong and work to make it right. As the moon reached its zenith, the formal gathering began to wind down. Wolves started to depart, heading back to their territories, their packs, their homes. But they left with full hearts and renewed faith in their king and queen. Finally, the royal family was alone, walking back to the lodge together. The children were tired, leaning against their parents as they walked. This was a good day, Lyra said sleepily. It was, Alara agreed. One we will remember always. When they reached the lodge, they put the children to bed, all three falling asleep almost immediately, exhausted by the excitement of the day. Alara and Alexandros retired to their own chambers, to the private space they had created together. As Alara removed the crown of the true mate and set it carefully aside, she caught Alexandros watching her with an expression of such love that it took her breath away. "What?" she asked softly. "I am just thinking," he said, "about how close I came to losing this. To losing you. If I had been more stubborn, if you had been less forgiving, if the moon goddess had not brought you to that gathering a year ago, I might have lived the rest of my life never knowing my children, never reclaiming my mate. It terrifies me, how easily it all could have been different." "But it was not different," Alara said, going to him. "We are here. Together. Our children are safe and happy. Our realm is at peace. This is our reality, and it is beautiful." "It is," he agreed, pulling her close. "More beautiful than I deserve." "Then we are matched," Alara said with a smile, "because it is more beautiful than I ever dared to dream." They stood together at the window, looking out at the moonlit forest, the realm that was theirs to protect and nurture. Somewhere out there, thousands of wolves slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that their king and queen loved them and would guard them always. And in that moment, Alara knew with absolute certainty that every tear she had shed, every lonely night she had endured, every sacrifice she had made, had been worth it. Because it had led her here, to this perfect moment, to this complete joy, to this family she loved more than life itself. The moon goddess had indeed known what she was doing. Sometimes the longest path is the one that leads to the greatest happiness. Sometimes separation is necessary to truly appreciate reunion. Sometimes love must be tested to prove its strength. And their love had proven stronger than time, stronger than duty, stronger than anything the world could throw at it. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you," he replied. "Always and forever." And under the watching moon, in the heart of the realm they had fought so hard to build, the Alpha King and his true mate stood together, their bond unbreakable, their love eternal, their family complete. The story that had begun with hiding and heartbreak ended with celebration and joy. The children who had been kept secret were now honored as the future of the realm. And the love that had been denied for 7 long years now blazed bright and true for all to see. It was, in every way, a perfect ending. And an even more perfect beginning. Now, I leave you with a question to ponder. If you were in Alara's position, would you have forgiven Alexandros and given him a second chance? Or would you have chosen to walk away and build a life without him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, if you felt the pain of their separation and the joy of their reunion, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others who love tales of second chances and true love, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will transport you to worlds of magic, romance, and adventure. Your support means everything and helps me bring more stories to life. Thanks for watching.